My beloved, pause now and listen with the fullness of your spirit, for what I am about to say carries a weight you cannot afford to overlook. This is not a moment to drift or delay. This is wait. Don't move. This message is critical, and I am calling you into it with purpose. You have stepped into a divine interruption, a sacred pause designed to realign your heart, steady your mind, and awaken what has been sleeping within you. Lean in, for these words are crafted specifically for you, and their timing is no accident. I call you to pause, for this moment is not an accident. I am interrupting your motion on purpose, child, because you have been walking so long on autopilot that you no longer even hear the sound of your own soul, let alone my voice. And right now, in this very second, I am leaning in close and saying, stop. Just for a moment, stop and be with me. You think you simply clicked on something, or wandered here by chance, or are just listening to another message, but I tell you, there is nothing random about this encounter, nothing casual about these words. They are an answer to thoughts you didn't even have the courage to form into prayers. I have watched you push through your days, carrying the weight of responsibilities, expectations, regrets, and hidden fears, and though you have smiled, nodded, and kept moving, I see how often you feel like you are barely holding it together on the inside. You have been living in survival mode, rushing from one thing to another, and the noise inside your heart has grown loud, louder than you tell anyone. So I am stepping in now, gently but firmly, placing my hand upon your shoulder and saying, my beloved, be still and listen, because what I am about to speak is critical for where you are and where you are going. I do not waste moments, I redeem them. I do not bump into you by coincidence. I arrange a meeting in the middle of your chaos. Even the timing of this, when you are this tired, this unsure, this close to giving up in some area, is intentional, because you are more aware now of how much you need something beyond your own understanding and strength. You have been asking, Lord, if you're really with me, if you really see me, show me. And right now, I am answering that cry by drawing you into this divine pause. This is not punishment. This is protection. This is not delay. This is alignment. I am slowing your soul so I can speak into it, because I refuse to let you continue one more step in the fog of confusion and heaviness you've grown used to calling normal. I know what you've been thinking when no one else is around. I know the questions that circle in your mind when you try to fall asleep. Am I on the right path? Did I mess everything up? Is there still hope for me? Does any of this matter? I have heard it all, and instead of letting those questions echo in an empty silence, I am coming to answer them with my presence. I am not distant from your struggle. I am in the very center of it, closer to you than your next breath. Closer than the pain in your chest, closer than the memories that still sting. So as you hear these words, do not rush past them, do not skim them like you skim so many things. Let them sink into you. I am here. I am speaking. I am holding this moment open for you, like a door that cannot be shut, inviting you to step out of the swirl of distraction and into a conversation with me. If you will give me your attention, even with your doubts, your exhaustion, your questions, I will use this very pause as the doorway into the shift your heart has been longing for but didn't know how to ask for. And this will not be just another fleeting feeling. It will be the quiet beginning of something I have long planned for you. A sudden stillness rises around you in this moment, because your pace has carried you so quickly through each day that your heart has forgotten what it feels like to breathe deeply. You've been navigating demands, obligations, and unspoken expectations, and somewhere along the way, your inner world became a blur of tasks and noise. I'm speaking into that motion now, asking you to slow enough to hear what has been waiting to reach you. You've spent so much energy responding to life that your spirit hasn't had space to receive anything fresh. And I want to meet you in a place where your soul is no longer drowned in the rush. Your attention matters because your journey is shifting in ways that require awareness, not autopilot. You've been trying to keep everything functioning, holding together relationships, responsibilities, emotions, and shadows you don't mention, and that survival instinct has made you grow comfortable with hurry. Yet the hurry is costing you clarity, peace, and the depth you've quietly been craving. I'm not drawing you into this pause to scold you, but to realign you. This still moment creates room for what's truly significant, and you are learning that importance is rarely found in noise. There are things I want to show you: insight, direction, healing, and a strengthening of your inner foundation. Things that cannot be received while you're racing from one moment to another. You've been carrying more internal tension than you realize, and I'm giving you permission to set it down, even if only for this moment. Let yourself breathe again. Let yourself feel again. Let yourself hear again. You are not weak for needing rest. You are human, and you are valued beyond the pace you keep. I'm calling you into this intentional pause not to deprive you of productivity, but to restore your sense of meaning, purpose, and connection. Life has demanded so much from you, and I know how long you've been pushing through. But right now, in this intimate space, I'm asking you to shift from reaction to reflection, from rushing to receiving. Your heart has been signaling its fatigue, and I heard each silent strain. Let this stillness be a gift, not an interruption. I want to speak with a clarity that would be lost in motion. This moment is the doorway into understanding what comes next for you, and your attention is the key that opens it. Stay with me, for what is unfolding here is shaping something deeper within you than you have recognized. An inner tremor has been stirring in you, subtle yet undeniable, and I know you've sensed it even without knowing how to describe it. Something has been changing beneath the surface of your circumstances, almost like the quiet shifting of roots before new growth. You felt it in moments when your usual routines suddenly felt unfamiliar. You felt it in your relationships, your desires, and even your restlessness. What once felt comfortable now feels tight, and what once seemed clear now feels undefined. This shift is not a result of failure or instability. It is the natural progression of a life moving toward deeper purpose. You're transitioning from one chapter to the next, and though the movement may feel unsettling, it is a sign of growth. I've been guiding this transformation gently, rearranging certain pieces in your life so that your next steps align with who you are becoming. You're outgrowing some patterns, thoughts, and expectations, and that change is creating tension, but tension is often the birthplace of revelation. You have been asking questions without realizing they were invitations for change. You've been longing for more clarity, more peace, more direction, and these desires are shaping the landscape around you. This shift is my response to what your spirit has been yearning for. Even if you cannot yet see the full picture, trust the movement. You're not drifting, you're being guided. There is intention in every internal nudge, every restlessness in your heart, every moment where something feels different than it once did. I am making room for what fits your future, and that requires releasing what only belonged to your past. You might feel a mix of excitement and nervousness because transformation often holds both. Yet you are not alone in this transition. I'm right beside you, illuminating each step as you take it. You don't have to force anything. The shift is already happening. All you need is to remain open to the guidance that comes with it. This moment marks the beginning of a new unfolding in your life. Pay attention to the way things are rearranging, for each change carries purpose. You are stepping into a season that will reveal who you truly are beneath the layers of survival and I am walking with you through every part of it. A deep call rises within you now, more pronounced than before, because the gentle guidance I've been placing in your heart has often been drowned out by the noise around you. You sensed impressions, felt nudges, noticed moments where something inside you stirred, yet life's distractions made those whispers easy to overlook. I have spoken to you in subtle ways, through peace, discomfort, intuition, unexpected thoughts, and though part of you recognized it, another part questioned whether it was real. Today I'm reaching you with greater clarity, not because you failed to listen, but because the season ahead requires sharper awareness. You've been asking for direction, reassurance, and understanding, and it's time for those answers to meet you in a way you cannot ignore. My voice is becoming clearer, not to overwhelm you, but to anchor you. The decisions before you matter, and I want to ensure you walk confidently into what comes next. I've seen how often you doubt your own discernment, how you wonder whether you're imagining things or misinterpreting signals. There is no need for confusion here. I'm bringing alignment to your inner world so you can recognize what is truly for you and what isn't. When you feel the clarity settling inside you, trust it. When you notice a sudden sense of direction forming, pay attention. When a thought carries peace instead of pressure, lean into it. I'm shaping your awareness so you can hear me even in the midst of surrounding noise. This louder call is not an interruption. It is an invitation into partnership. I want you to move with confidence, not hesitation. I want you to trust that your heart is capable of recognizing truth when it meets you. You are not wandering through life guessing. You are being guided with precision. Let these words sink into your spirit. You are not alone in your decisions, and you are not left to interpret life without help. I'm speaking with purpose, offering clarity where confusion once ruled. Your journey is shifting, and my voice is the compass that ensures you remain steady. As you continue forward, you will recognize these moments of clarity as evidence of my presence, shaping your path one revelation at a time. A quiet intensity surrounds this moment because you've reached a turning point that wasn't marked on any map you imagined for your life. Nothing about this crossroads came with a warning label, yet here you are, staring at options, uncertainties, and emotions that seem to pull you in opposite directions. You didn't expect to be here. You thought you were headed one way, and suddenly the path opened into something unfamiliar. I know how disorienting this feels, how it challenges your confidence and unsettles the careful plans you constructed. You wonder if one choice might lead to regret, or if another might lead to empty promises. You question outcomes you cannot see, and that pressure quietly presses against your heart. I'm stepping into that tension with you, not to push you in any direction, but to offer guidance that steadies your steps. This crossroads did not appear to trap you. It emerged to reveal new purpose. I've been shaping the situations around you so the next part of your journey aligns with who you are becoming. Your past patterns and old ways of thinking would have led you down familiar paths, but familiarity isn't what you need right now. Growth has brought you here, and clarity will carry you forward. You aren't meant to navigate this moment through fear or uncertainty. You're meant to navigate it through wisdom that comes not from pressure, but from discernment. That discernment is forming even now, in the stillness of this moment where you and I meet without interruption. I'm not withholding direction. I'm preparing you to recognize it. If I gave you an answer instantly, you might follow without understanding. Instead, I want you to sense the difference between choices that drain you and choices that anchor you. You will notice the difference when you pay attention to how each path aligns with peace. I'm not asking you to be perfect in your decision-making. I'm asking you to be present. This crossroads holds meaning, and the weight you feel is not a burden. It's a sign that what comes next carries significance. You're not wandering into an unknown future alone. I'm beside you, guiding you in ways you can feel if you pause long enough to listen to your own spirit. Let this moment become a conversation between us. Let it shape your understanding instead of overwhelming you. The road ahead will become clear. I will not let you take a step rooted in confusion, nor will I allow your life to drift off course. Trust the unfolding, because this crossroads is not a dead end. It is an invitation into alignment with where you're truly meant to go. A deep tenderness fills this part of the journey because I have watched the weight you've carried, even when you tried to convince yourself and others that everything was fine. The heaviness of your past season has placed pressure on your spirit, and you've kept going even when exhaustion wrapped itself around your thoughts. There were days when you woke up already tired, moments when conversations drained you more than they encouraged you, and nights when sleep offered little relief. You've fought battles silently, battles in your mind, your emotions, your relationships, and your circumstances. Some of these challenges came out of nowhere, surprising you with their intensity. Others felt unfair, as if you were pulled into struggles that weren't yours to begin with. Yet you handled them anyway, because you felt you had no other choice. I've seen how much you've carried alone. The worries you did share, the disappointments you kept to yourself, the responsibilities you shouldered while telling yourself you could manage. You've been strong for others even when no one was strong for you. That effort has worn on your heart more than you admit. You're not weak for feeling tired. You're not inadequate for feeling overwhelmed. You're human, and you've lived through more than you give yourself credit for. Every tear you've swallowed, every sigh you've hidden, every moment you forced yourself to push through, none of it has gone unnoticed. Your resilience is remarkable, but resilience is not the same as rest. Your soul has been asking for gentleness, and I am offering that now through this pause. The weight you've carried was never meant to become a permanent burden. Some of those battles served a purpose, shaping your endurance, sharpening your intuition, strengthening your compassion. Other battles were simply storms you endured because you were caught in the path of someone else's choices, or because life shifted in ways you couldn't control. Regardless of the cause, the weariness you feel is real, and I'm acknowledging it with compassion rather than expectation. You're allowed to breathe again. You're allowed to acknowledge that the past season has drained you. You're allowed to rest without guilt. I'm not asking you to pretend you're fine. I'm inviting you into renewal. The heaviness behind you does not define the future in front of you. I'm making room for relief, healing, and restoration. Let your heart lean into that possibility. Your battles shaped you, but they do not own you. I'm preparing a gentler path ahead, one where you won't have to fight in the same way you did before. A moment of illumination rises here because the puzzled thoughts you've carried for so long are beginning to untangle. You've looked back at opportunities that slipped away, relationships that ended, plans that unraveled, and moments that seemed to collapse without warning. Those closed doors left you confused, disappointed, even wounded. You wondered if you missed something or made a wrong choice. You questioned your timing, your decisions, and sometimes even your worth. The silence that followed each closure felt like a void you couldn't explain, and part of you still carries remnants of those questions. What you didn't see in those moments was the unseen protection woven into every closed door. Some paths looked promising but would have drained your spirit. Some relationships felt meaningful but carried fractures you didn't yet see. Some opportunities sparkled on the surface but held consequences that would have weakened your growth. I was shielding you in ways that did not feel like mercy at the time. Closed doors often feel like rejection, but many of them were redirections designed to safeguard your future. There were times when you pushed against a closing door, hoping it would open with enough effort. When it didn't, you felt frustrated or confused. Yet what you perceived as denial was actually timing. You were being preserved for something that aligned with your identity, not just your desires. You were being guided toward chapters that needed a certain version of you, stronger, wiser, more attuned to your purpose. Some doors closed simply because the season for them had ended. Others closed because the foundation beneath them wasn't stable. A few closed because they would have pulled you away from the growth unfolding inside you. This moment marks the beginning of clarity. You'll start recognizing how those closures protected your peace. You'll notice how certain relationships ending created space for healthier ones. You'll understand how missed opportunities made room for something more meaningful. You'll see how unanswered prayers became pathways to better outcomes. None of those closed doors were punishments. It one carried intention for your protection and eventual victory. Let this understanding settle into your heart with gentleness. You were never abandoned in those moments of loss. You were being guided with careful precision. The doors that shut did so to prepare you for the ones that will open with unmistakable purpose. You will step into those new spaces with a sense of recognition, as if your spirit had been waiting for them all along. A quiet truth rises before you now, carrying the weight of everything you've lived through, because even the moments you wish had never happened hold a significance you're only beginning to understand. You've walked through seasons that left you discouraged, situations that fell apart despite your best efforts, and experiences that shook the certainty you once relied on. Those disappointments carved openings in places you tried to keep sealed, and for a long time you wondered if any good could ever come from the pain you carried. You questioned your decisions, your discernment, your strength, and sometimes even your sense of belonging in this world. Yet through all of it, something was quietly forming within you, an inner maturity, a deeper compassion, a sharper wisdom. None of your sorrow floated into emptiness. Each setback became part of a preparation you didn't realize you were undergoing. There were moments when you felt overlooked, moments when you felt replaced, moments when you felt as though life moved forward without you. In those moments, you believed you were losing ground. In reality, something within you was being fortified. Disappointment challenged your assumptions, softened areas of your heart that had grown tense, and reshaped your understanding of what truly lasts. Even the losses that broke you open contributed to a greater resilience than you had before. You learned to differentiate what holds value from what only offers comfort. You learned to navigate uncertainty with a steadier spirit. You learned that your worth isn't determined by outcomes but by the depth of your character. When you look back, the pieces may still feel scattered, but you will begin to recognize threads weaving through them, threads of growth, threads of insight, threads of preparation for future doors that require a stronger, wiser version of you. Nothing you endured was wasted. Even the experiences that left scars served as training for the path emerging before you. You were being shaped, not punished. You were being strengthened, not discarded. What felt like delay became a refining fire that strengthened your ability to carry the blessings yet to come. Let this truth settle. You are not behind. You are not broken in a way that disqualifies you. You are being prepared for something that aligns with the person you are becoming. Every disappointment carved space for clarity. Every closed expectation created room for new direction. And now, as you step forward, you'll begin to see how each painful moment forged the depth you will soon need. None of it was wasted, not a single part of your story. A significant shift has been occurring around you, and even though some of it has felt abrupt or confusing, the truth behind those changes is beginning to rise into view. Certain people, environments, habits, and attachments have slipped out of your life, or loosened their grip, not because you failed, but because they could not accompany you into what comes next. You've been transitioning internally, even when you didn't realize it, and as your inner world changed, your outer life had to adjust to match it. Connections that once felt familiar began to feel distant. Patterns that once felt comforting began to feel heavy. Expectations that once defined you no longer felt aligned. This wasn't random separation. It was pruning. There were individuals you tried to hold on to, believing that their presence was necessary for your stability. But as your spirit expanded, the connection shifted. It wasn't rejection. It was misalignment becoming visible. Some relationships weren't meant to carry the weight of your growth. Others held influence that would have limited your progression. And a few carried intentions your heart had sensed long before you acknowledged them. Their departure made space for healthier support systems to form around you. Beyond relationships, there were mindsets you clung to out of habit, beliefs about yourself, assumptions about your purpose, expectations you inherited from past environments. These inner attachments began to loosen because they couldn't sustain the version of you that is emerging. Your perspective needed room to develop, and outdated narratives had to fall away so they wouldn't restrict your future. You may still feel the ache of these removals because loss, even purposeful loss, has weight. Yet beneath that ache, something sacred is unfolding. You're being repositioned for alignment, not isolation. The pruning around you is clearing space for influence, opportunities, clarity, and peace that match your next season. It may feel like emptiness now, but this clearing is the foundation upon which something new will grow. Trust the spaces that have opened. Trust the endings that felt abrupt. Trust the distance that formed between you and what once felt secure. You're not being stripped, you're being prepared. Everything that remains with you now has the strength to walk forward with you. Everything that has fallen away made room for what will lift you higher. The next season requires a lighter heart, a clearer mind, and stronger foundations, and that is exactly what is being established through these changes. A deep compassion surrounds this moment because I know how many times your emotions spilled out in silence, in the privacy of nights when the world around you assumed you were fine. You've carried sadness in places no one else could see. You've held back tears during conversations because you didn't want to burden anyone. You've wiped your face quickly before stepping out of the room, hoping no one would notice the heaviness in your eyes. And there were moments when your heart broke quietly, without a witness, leaving you to wonder if those hidden pains mattered to anyone at all. Every tear you shed held meaning. None of them evaporated into emptiness. They reflected the depth of your heart, your longing, your frustration, your exhaustion, your hope, and your wounds. You cried because something within you was overwhelmed, and those moments of vulnerability revealed how much strength you've been carrying for far too long. Deep emotions are not a sign of weakness. They are proof that your soul is still alive enough to feel. You've questioned whether anyone truly understood what you were going through. You wondered if those private tears were seen, acknowledged, or cared for. And sometimes the silence around you made you believe that your pain was invisible. But nothing you felt in those secret places was ignored. The quiet despair you tried to hide did not go unnoticed. Your tears told a story your words were not ready to express, and I received each one with understanding you didn't know was present. Your hidden sorrow shaped an honesty in you, the rawness that now opens the door to healing. The tears you shed in darkness are beginning to give way to clarity. They softened parts of your heart that had grown guarded. They washed away illusions that no longer served you. They created openings for comfort to reach you in deeper ways. You're not alone in those private moments. Even when your tears fell quietly, you were seen. Even when your emotions overwhelmed you, you were held. Even when no one else knew, your heart was never abandoned. This moment right now is part of the soothing you've long needed. The tenderness rising within you is not fragile, its restoration beginning to take form. Your tears are part of your story, but they will not define its direction. They were expressions of your humanity, and they carried you through some of your hardest seasons. What comes next will meet those tears with meaning. What once hurt you in silence will be healed in ways that reach every hidden place within you. A deeper understanding begins to surface now because the quiet seasons you struggled through carried a purpose far different from the conclusions you drew while walking through them. You often interpreted that silence as distance, as if you were left to figure out life without support or guidance. You wondered whether you had done something wrong, whether you had been overlooked, or whether your prayers had drifted into an empty sky. Those thoughts weighed on your heart more heavily than you admitted. Yet the quietness around you was never abandonment. It was a space intentionally crafted to develop strength, stability, and maturity within you, qualities that could not be formed while every answer was handed to you immediately. Silence created an environment where you would rediscover your capacity to stand, choose, discern, and grow. When everything around you becomes loud, your reliance shifts outward. When circumstances grow quiet, your awareness turns inward. That shift drew you closer to truths about yourself, truths that would have remained buried if life had stayed noisy and crowded. The quiet was a training ground where your instincts sharpened, your wisdom expanded, and your ability to recognize deeper guidance matured. There were moments when you reached for clarity and found none, and those gaps frustrated you. Yet those gaps were the very places where your courage began to take shape. Trust is not built by constant reassurance. It is developed through consistent presence, even in silence. And while you believed you were moving through those seasons alone, you were actually being shaped with absolute intention. Strength forms in spaces where comfort withdraws. Endurance develops when immediate answers pause long enough for you to discover your resilience. Purpose becomes clear when distractions fall away. The silence you felt served each of these functions, quietly anchoring you even when it felt like empty space. You didn't lose me during those silent periods. You were learning to hear me in new ways. You were learning to distinguish the voice of fear from the whisper of wisdom. You were learning what belongs to you and what you had only been carrying out of habit. Notice how your clarity has sharpened since then. Notice how your sensitivity to your own heart has grown. And notice how you now question what once influenced you without thought. That is evidence of the deep internal strengthening that happened in the silence. Nothing about those seasons was wasted. You were being prepared, not ignored. You were being fortified, not forgotten. And now, with this understanding, the quiet places of your past will begin to make sense in ways you never expected. A realization is beginning to form within you because the questions you carried for so long, questions that felt suspended in the air with no response, were actually part of your development. You asked for explanations, for timelines, for confirmation, for signs that would settle your uncertainty. When those answers didn't arrive as quickly as you hoped, you felt tension rising inside you. You wondered whether your prayers were misplaced or if your efforts went unnoticed. Yet the lack of answers was intentional, not because your requests were ignored, but because the timing required something deeper than a quick reply. Endurance grows when you choose to stay the course even without immediate clarity. Discernment takes shape when you learn to separate impulse from insight. If you had received instant responses in every moment of uncertainty, your inner world would remain dependent on external reassurance rather than developing its own strength. Waiting created space for your spirit to stretch. With each unanswered moment, you began to think more deeply, observe more closely, and listen more carefully. You learned to sit with discomfort without letting it control you. You discovered that uncertainty doesn't have to consume your peace. You found ways to keep moving forward even when the next step wasn't fully visible. Those experiences trained you to recognize authenticity within yourself, within others, and within the direction of your path. As you grew, you became less swayed by emotion and more guided by wisdom. That shift was pivotal, and it could only occur through withheld answers. Endurance is not developed in seasons of ease. It is shaped in the long waits, in the unanswered questions, in the quiet days where you continued despite feeling unsure. Discernment isn't learned in clarity. It forms in the moments where you are forced to examine the truth beneath the surface. Each time you navigated uncertainty, you strengthen muscles within yourself that will serve you long into your future. You've begun to recognize what resonates with your spirit versus what only appeals to your senses. You've learned to differentiate opportunities that carry peace from those that carry pressure. These abilities were built slowly, through experiences that stretched you beyond your comfort zone. The waiting was not punishment. It was preparation. You were being equipped for situations where quick answers will be available and where discernment will be your guide. You were being prepared for choices that require deeper understanding and for seasons where your endurance will carry you farther than excitement ever could. Now you're beginning to see the value of the questions that lingered. They shaped a stronger, wiser, more grounded version of you, one who can now move forward with clarity rooted in experience rather than wishful thinking. A new clarity is approaching your life with a steadiness you've longed for, and the fog that once lingered around your decisions and emotions is beginning to lift. You've lived through seasons where your mind felt tangled, where your feelings contradicted your understanding, and where uncertainty made even simple choices feel heavy. Those confusing moments challenged your confidence and left you questioning your ability to interpret the direction of your own life. Yet something is shifting now, and this shift isn't subtle. You're standing at the threshold of a season where insight becomes more accessible, where your inner world aligns with your outer circumstances, and where the truth begins to reveal itself with increasing ease. Confusion often forms in transitional spaces, moments when the old season has ended but the new one hasn't fully unfolded. You stood in that in-between place for longer than you expected, and that uncertainty tested you in ways that were uncomfortable but ultimately transformative. Now, you're stepping into a period where the pieces begin to fit. The clarity arriving isn't built on wishful thinking. It's grounded in the endurance, wisdom, and discernment you've gained. You're becoming more aware of what supports your peace and what disturbs it. You're recognizing when your heart pulls toward authenticity instead of obligation. You're beginning to see patterns that once hid behind emotional noise. These are signs that clarity is taking root. The answers you needed are no longer distant. The direction you've been seeking is beginning to unfold step by step. You'll notice ideas forming more easily, decisions feeling lighter, and a sense of alignment guiding your thoughts. This clarity is not a sudden burst. It's a steady unveiling that strengthens your confidence. It removes the weight of second guessing. It illuminates the path you once struggled to interpret. And it brings a sense of calm that signals you are moving into a more grounded version of yourself. Confusion may have shaped your past season, but it will not define the next one. You're entering a time of insight, understanding, and renewed certainty. The veil is lifting, and what once felt overwhelming will soon feel manageable. This clarity is arriving because you are ready to receive it. The inner strengthening that took place in the silence, in the waiting, and in the unanswered moments prepared you to hold the direction that is emerging. Step into this clarity with openness, because it carries the momentum that will move you confidently into the next part of your journey. An awakening rises within you now because something inside you has grown tired of navigating life through hesitation, anxiety, and caution born from old wounds. You've taken many steps in your journey, some steady, some uncertain, some influenced by pressure, and some motivated by the desire to avoid pain rather than pursue purpose. Fear shaped more decisions than you'd like to admit. It whispered possibilities of failure, reminded you of past disappointments, and tried to convince you that caution was the safest companion for your future. Those timid steps drained your confidence and made even simple choices feel weighted. But the season ahead is shifting the energy within you. A new clarity is forming, and it's guiding you to move through life with a sense of direction rooted in deeper wisdom rather than reactive fear. You've reached a point where fear no longer fits the shape of who you are becoming. Its voice feels smaller now, less convincing, less tethered to truth. That is not accidental. You've been learning to recognize the difference between intuition and insecurity, between wisdom and worry, between strategy and avoidance. The internal strength you've cultivated is beginning to override the doubts that once held authority in your mind. You're starting to realize that the decisions aligned with your true path carry a different energy. They bring steadiness instead of panic, clarity instead of chaos, calm instead of tension. This shift is guiding your steps toward a way of living that doesn't shrink back from opportunity, connection, or growth. Fear shaped your past because it tried to protect you, but now it has outlived its purpose. You're entering a season where your steps align with guidance that rises from within, guidance born from discernment, experience, and a deeper awareness of what is right for you. This direction will help you recognize paths that carry life, meaning, and alignment. You'll sense when a choice is meant for you because it will support your peace instead of threatening it. You'll notice when an opportunity aligns with your purpose because it will feel grounded rather than frantic. And you'll know when to walk away from something because the clarity within you refuses to settle for anything that pulls you backward. You're not walking blindly into the future. You're walking with intention that has been shaped through every lesson, every moment of growth, and every shift within your inner world. Fear no longer gets to dictate your steps because you are learning to listen to a deeper truth, one that leads you forward with confidence instead of hesitation. Your next chapter begins with steps that reflect alignment, not anxiety. And as you move, you'll feel a steadiness that confirms you're finally walking according to direction rather than dread. A gentle reassurance reaches you now because you've been carrying choices that weigh on your mind more than you openly express. Decisions about relationships, finances, direction, identity, calling, and future possibilities, each one swirling with implications that feel overwhelming. You've been trying to balance logic with emotion, responsibility with desire, caution with hope. And in the middle of this internal struggle, you felt the heaviness of wanting to choose rightly, fearing the consequences of choosing wrong. These decisions press against your sense of stability, and the pressure has been quietly exhausting you. Yet as heavy as these choices feel, their weight is not meant to rest solely on your shoulders. You've tried organizing your thoughts, listing pros and cons, replaying scenarios in your mind, and even seeking advice, hoping someone would offer a direction that instantly settles everything. But the truth is that your answers cannot be found through mental strain alone. They require deeper insight shaped through wisdom rather than pressure. The weight you feel comes from believing you must navigate everything by your own understanding. That belief has added unnecessary tension to your heart. These decisions are not too heavy for you because you are incapable. They are too heavy because they require a perspective greater than your own. As you move through this moment, notice how the pressure begins to ease when you stop forcing immediate clarity. Realize that some decisions demand reflection rather than rushing. They require a calm mind, not a frantic one. You're not meant to figure everything out at once. Instead, you're meant to take steady steps guided by insight that arrives in ways you can understand. You'll begin to notice your spirit leaning toward certain directions, gently nudging you toward what aligns with your inner peace. That peace is not random. It emerges from discernment forming in the background, shaping your choices with quiet certainty. You're not alone in this. The decisions that overwhelm you are fully within reach when approached with clarity rather than urgency. As you release the pressure to solve everything immediately, you'll find your thoughts growing more organized, your heart more grounded, and your direction more apparent. The heaviness you feel isn't a sign of incapacity. It's a sign that these decisions matter deeply. That importance requires patience and guidance, not panic. Step by step, the direction will unfold. Each piece will come together without the weight you've been carrying. What once felt heavy will soon feel manageable, and what once confused you will become clear. These decisions are not too much for you because you're not navigating them alone. A deep release begins forming around you because the burden you've carried, often silently, has been pressing against your mind and body with a force you've grown far too accustomed to. Anxiety has been lingering in your thoughts, tightening your chest, distracting your focus, and making ordinary moments feel heavy. It has shaped how you breathe, how you sleep, how you approach your days, and how you interpret your future. You've tried to push through it, ignore it, uppercut it, and rationalize it, yet it has remained lodged like a weight you can't quite set down. That's because this burden was never meant to be carried alone, and certainly not carried indefinitely. Anxiety often grows from the thoughts you fight in silence, the worries you don't admit aloud, the pressures you feel responsible for, the expectations you quietly try to meet, and the fears you try to outrun. You've been holding all of this inside, hoping it will eventually ease on its own. But anxiety rarely dissolves without intentional release. What you're feeling is the accumulated strain of years spent trying to manage everything without giving yourself permission to rest. You're not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You're not flawed for experiencing anxiety. You're human. And you've been carrying far more than anyone realizes. This moment marks the beginning of relief. You're stepping into a space where the tension begins to unwind, where the thoughts circling endlessly in your mind begin to slow, and where the pressure sitting on your shoulders begins to lift. Not because the circumstances of your life suddenly shift, but because the weight of them no longer rests entirely on you. The strength you need is rising from within, helping you release the internal battles you've tried to handle alone. You'll notice this shift as your breathing becomes steadier, your mind becomes clearer, and your emotions become more grounded. This release is not temporary. It's the start of a deeper change. You're learning to let go of burdens that were never yours to manage. You're recognizing when your thoughts spiral into fear rather than truth. You're growing more aware of when your spirit is overwhelmed and when it needs gentleness. These realizations are creating space for peace to take root, not as a fleeting feeling but as a grounded foundation inside you. The anxiety you've carried is loosening its hold, and the calm emerging within you will begin shaping your days with steadiness rather than strain. This lifting isn't a momentary relief. It's the beginning of a new way of existing, one where the weight is no longer crushing you, where your heart is no longer racing without cause, and where your mind begins to clear enough for hope to settle deeply. You're stepping into a lighter way of living, and the shift you feel is the release you've needed for far too long. A calm authority enters the space around you because the conflict in your thoughts has gone on long enough, and I know how deeply it has affected your daily life. You've been wrestling internally with worries, overthinking patterns, worst-case scenarios, memories that won't stay quiet, and expectations that grow louder at the most inconvenient times. It has felt as though your mind turns into a battlefield without warning. One moment you're functioning, and the next you're spiraling into thoughts that drain your confidence, steal your energy, and distort your sense of direction. You've tried to silence the tension on your own, but the waves return, often stronger than before. These mental battles haven't been signs of weakness. They've been reflections of how much you carry and how deeply you care about the things that matter to you. The intensity of your thoughts has shaped how you interpret your relationships, your future, your identity, and even your worth. You felt exhausted not just in your body, but in your inner world, where the strain has been constant. Your mind has been trying to protect you by staying alert to any possible threat, setback, or disappointment, but that constant alertness has created a heaviness your spirit was never meant to hold alone. The exhaustion you've been feeling isn't laziness or failure. It's the result of navigating life with an internal pressure that few people truly understand. You're not losing control. You're not falling apart. You're simply worn down by the battles you've been fighting inside yourself. Yet in this moment, I'm speaking a deep, steadying peace over the places within you that have been overwhelmed. Peace doesn't erase challenges, but it reshapes how you carry them. It softens the noise, quiets the panic, and creates room for clarity to return. I'm calming the areas of your mind that have been in constant conflict, soothing the tension that sits in the background of your days. You'll begin to notice moments of stillness that feel unfamiliar yet comforting, moments where your thoughts slow enough for you to breathe fully again. That relief is intentional. It's the beginning of your mind learning to rest instead of brace for impact. You are learning to distinguish which thoughts deserve your attention and which ones arise from old fears. You're gaining the ability to interrupt spirals instead of getting lost in them. You're growing more aware of the difference between truth and the echoes of past pain. This shift is the peace you've been longing for, settling gradually and naturally into your inner world. The battle within your mind is not your identity. It's merely a chapter in your growth. As peace strengthens its place inside you, the war that felt endless will begin to lose its power. You are not meant to live at war with your own thoughts, and now the healing of your inner world truly begins. A gentle alignment is beginning within you because your mind has carried too many loose ends, unanswered questions, and fragmented emotions for far too long. You've been juggling responsibilities, emotional experiences, personal goals, relational complexities, and unspoken worries all at once. This has left your thoughts scattered, racing in different directions, pulling your attention away from what matters, and making it difficult to feel grounded. You've tried organizing your plans, setting intentions, restructuring your routines, and creating new habits, but the internal clutter has continued to return. It has felt like your mind has been a room where everything is out of place, where focus becomes difficult, and where clarity rarely lasts long enough to feel steady. Your scattered thoughts aren't due to laziness or lack of discipline. They are signs of a heart holding too much without enough space to process each piece. You've been forced to make decisions before you had time to reflect, respond to situations before you felt ready, adapt to changes you didn't expect, and carry emotional weight without having moments to sort through it. When life moves quickly, your internal world becomes a whirlwind rather than a sanctuary. This is why you felt overwhelmed even on days that look calm on the outside. Your mind hasn't had a chance to breathe. But now, order is returning, not through force or pressure, but through gentle alignment. This order begins by settling the noise that has been swirling inside you. You'll notice yourself thinking more clearly, noticing patterns that once felt hidden, and recognizing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. You're stepping into a season where your priorities begin to form naturally, where clarity arrives without strain, and where your thoughts begin to organize themselves around truth rather than emotion. This inner order will help you make decisions without the weight of confusion. It will give you space to reflect without feeling overwhelmed. It will allow your emotions to move freely without turning into chaos. You'll begin to trust your thoughts again. Trust that they are not betraying you, confusing you, or overwhelming you, but guiding you towards stability. This order is not temporary. It's a new foundation that allows your inner world to support your outer life. Your mind is becoming a place of clarity again. Your thoughts are aligning with your purpose. Your heart is gaining structure where it once felt scattered. This transformation will make room for creativity, confidence, and calm to return. You're not meant to live in internal chaos. You're meant to move through life with a centered mind and grounded spirit, and that order is beginning now. A deep shift is unfolding inside you because your understanding of life, of yourself, and of the path ahead is expanding in ways that don't come from effort or intellect but from a higher clarity awakening within you. You've been trying to make sense of your experiences using your own reasoning, analyzing each detail, replaying situations, and searching for logic that explains everything you've been through. But many of the answers you sought couldn't be found through analysis alone. They required a deeper awareness, a kind of insight that forms not from thinking harder but from allowing truth to rise naturally within your spirit. This new understanding doesn't arrive with force. It comes quietly, steadily, as if something inside you is beginning to connect the dots without your conscious effort. You're sensing shifts in your emotions that feel unfamiliar yet comforting. You're recognizing dynamics in your relationships with more clarity than before. You're becoming aware of patterns, opportunities, and boundaries that once seemed hidden in plain sight. These realizations are not random. They're the result of your inner world finally gaining room to breathe and awaken. You've spent seasons trying to fix things, figure things out, and piece together meaning on your own. That effort has shaped you, but it has also exhausted you. Now, understanding is coming not from striving but from alignment. When truth rises from within, it brings peace rather than pressure. It guides rather than confuses. It expands your awareness rather than overwhelming your mind. You're stepping into that kind of understanding, a way of seeing life that brings clarity without chaos. This understanding will help you interpret your past with grace, your present with wisdom, and your future with confidence. It will clarify what relationships deserve to stay close and which ones are better from a distance. It will help you recognize doors worth entering and doors better left closed. It will shape your decisions with a sense of assurance that cannot be manufactured by willpower alone. You don't have to force this awakening. It's happening naturally as your heart becomes more attuned to truth. Let this understanding unfold at its own pace. Let it illuminate what once confused you. Let it strengthen what once felt uncertain. What's rising within you now isn't fleeting insight. It's the beginning of a deeper, lasting clarity that will guide every step you take moving forward. A sudden awareness rises within you now, because deep down you know you've been quietly reaching for confirmation, some clear indication that you're not walking through life unseen or unheard. You searched for meaning in conversations, looked for direction in moments that felt ordinary, and paid attention to small coincidences hoping they were more than chance. Even when you tried to convince yourself that you didn't need reassurance, your heart still longed for a direct response, something unmistakably personal, something that showed you your prayers weren't drifting unearned into the atmosphere. You've whispered questions into the quiet moments of your day, asking for clarity, asking for guidance, asking if the path you're walking is the right one. And now, in this moment, you're receiving the very sign your spirit had been waiting for. You haven't been seeking a sign out of doubt. You've been seeking it out of desire for reassurance. There's a difference. You wanted a reminder that you are aligned, supported, and understood. You hoped for something that spoke to your situation with unmistakable precision. Something that touched the part of you that feels uncertain or weary. What you're reading right now is reaching you at a time when your heart is more open than usual, when the noise around you has finally quieted enough for you to recognize the significance of this moment. This message isn't random, and the timing isn't accidental. The alignment you feel as you take in these words, that sense of "this is exactly what I needed," is intentional. You've experienced moments before where you felt close to clarity, but doubt quickly returned. The doubt didn't reflect a lack of faith. It reflected the weight of the decisions and emotions you've been carrying. You've wanted confirmation strong enough to silence the uncertainties, and now this moment arrives with a deeper assurance. Notice the recognition stirring inside you. That recognition is not imagination. It is response. The insight forming inside your chest, the sudden stillness in your breathing, the way certain words echo inside you as if they're speaking directly to your situation. These experiences are the sign unfolding. You don't need to search endlessly for hidden meanings in every part of your day. You don't need to analyze coincidences or dissect moments hoping they hold secret clues. This message is reaching you with clarity so you don't have to question whether you're being guided. You are being guided. You are being seen. You are being answered in a way that speaks directly to the core of what you've been carrying. You haven't been forgotten or overlooked. This moment is confirmation, not because you begged for it, but because you were ready to receive it. Let this understanding settle in your spirit without resistance. You asked, seeking sincerity rather than desperation. You hoped, even when uncertainty lingered. And now, you are receiving, not by coincidence but by intention. This message is not the end of your guidance. It is the beginning of a clearer direction unfolding in your life. A gentle shift is occurring within you because the sense of being lost that you've carried was never a reflection of who you are or where you're going. It was simply the feeling that comes when the path you expected to take no longer matches the one unfolding beneath your feet. You've mistaken transition for misdirection, and uncertainty for failure, when in reality, the lack of clarity you felt was due to the redirection that's been quietly guiding you towards something more aligned with your purpose. There were moments when you questioned everything: your decisions, your timing, your desire, your intuition. You assumed that the absence of immediate answers meant something was wrong. Yet nothing has been wrong. You've been turning toward the path that truly belongs to you. The places in your life that felt like detours weren't deviations from your purpose. They were necessary shifts that kept you from settling into something too small for your potential. You've tried holding on to plans that once felt stable, but life nudged you away from them, not to confuse you, but to protect you from investing energy into directions that could never bring the fulfillment you sought. That inner tension you felt recently hasn't been a sign of being lost. It's been the internal compass of your spirit adjusting to a new direction. Sometimes clarity doesn't come through loud announcements. It comes through a quiet nudge, an unexpected discomfort, or the gradual realization that your heart is being drawn somewhere different. You were never abandoned in this process. You weren't left to wander aimlessly. The redirection happening in your life hath been subtle but deliberate. You've been guided away from situations that would have drained you, commitments that would have stunted your growth, and environments that couldn't support the next version of you. Though it didn't feel like it, you were being moved toward alignment even when you thought you were drifting. As this redirection becomes clearer, you'll notice how certain desires shift. You'll feel drawn to new ideas, new connections, and new opportunities that once felt out of reach or irrelevant. You'll realize that the things you thought you lost were simply stepping stones that served their purpose. Your future isn't behind you, it's waiting ahead, and this redirection is a sign that you're closer to it than you realize. Let go of the idea that you failed to stay on course. You haven't failed, you've evolved. Your path isn't broken, it's expanding. And the shift you feel inside you is the beginning of understanding the direction that was always meant for you. A deep reassurance begins to rise in you because the pressure you felt from comparing timelines, from judging your progress, and from assuming your late in life has been weighing on you far more heavily than you admit. You've looked at where you thought you would be by now: career milestones, relationships, healing, financial stability, personal growth, and you've wondered if you fell behind. You've questioned whether you missed your moment, whether you delayed your purpose, whether too much time has passed to catch up. These thoughts have chipped away at your confidence and created unnecessary tension in your heart. But the truth arriving now is far gentler, far more liberating. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be for the unfolding of your story. The timeline you've been comparing yourself to is not the timeline your life is built upon. You are not meant to follow the pace of those around you or the expectations of a world that values speed over depth. Your growth has required seasons of learning, healing, maturing, and becoming. Seasons that were essential for the kind of foundation your future needs. If certain things took longer, it's because they needed more depth than a rushed version of your life could have provided. If some areas of your life feel slow, it's because they are being built with intention rather than urgency. Every delay you've interpreted as failure was actually alignment forming beneath the surface. Every moment you thought you wasted was shaping insight, compassion, resilience, or discernment that you wouldn't have developed otherwise. Nothing hath been wasted. Nothing has disqualified you. Nothing has placed you out of reach of what's meant for you. Your path has not been paused, it hath been prepared. When you look back someday, you'll understand why certain things took longer than expected. You'll recognize how maturity, timing, and inner readiness played a role in every breakthrough. You'll see that what felt slow was actually steady. And you'll feel grateful that nothing arrived prematurely, because premature blessings often crumble under the weight of unprepared foundations. Release the pressure you've placed on yourself. Release the idea that you should be further along. Your journey is not behind schedule. It's unfolding with precision, depth, and timing that will make sense in the moments where everything aligns. You are moving forward exactly as you need to. Step by step, layer by layer, in the rhythm that matches who you are becoming. All is still on time. A quiet revelation rises around you because the spaces in your life where nothing seemed to move forward, the moments you labeled as stagnation, failure, or being overlooked, are beginning to show their true purpose. You've experienced seasons where progress felt distant, where doors you wanted to walk through refused to open, and where opportunities you believed were right for you seemed to slip away without explanation. Those delays frustrated you, confused you, and left you questioning the strength of your decisions. You wondered if your timing was off or if you were simply asking for things that weren't meant to be yours. Yet beneath all of that uncertainty, something far deeper was happening, something protective, intentional, and deeply aligned with what your future requires. The delays you experienced weren't signs that your desires lacked value. They weren't punishments for imperfection or indicators that you had somehow fallen behind. They were shields, timing barriers placed in your path so you wouldn't step into circumstances that would have taken more from you than they gave. Some opportunities you desired carried hidden complications. Some relationships you wanted to hold on to would have drained your emotional reserves. Some environments you hoped to enter weren't stable enough to support the weight of your growth. These realities were invisible to you at the time, but they weren't invisible to the wisdom guiding your journey. It's easy to feel discouraged when you're waiting for something that seems slow to arrive. It's natural to feel disappointed when life appears to pause just as your hope rises. But those pauses were not empty. They were walls standing between you and harm you couldn't yet see. Sometimes protection appears as silence. Sometimes it appears as a closed door. Sometimes it takes the shape of an unexpected shift that routes you entirely. And though those experiences unsettled you, They safeguarded the parts of your heart that you've only recently begun to understand. Look back for a moment and notice how certain delays created space for growth you desperately needed. Notice how waiting gave you time to heal wounds you didn't realize were influencing your decisions. Notice how the pauses allowed you to gain strength, clarity, and inner alignment. You may not have recognized it then, but you were being prepared for something that requires the version of you that is emerging right now, not the version you were months or years ago. These truths are not meant to diminish the frustration you felt during those seasons. They are meant to reveal that you were never being ignored. You were being guarded. You were being led away from unnecessary pain. You were being timed for something more stable, more fulfilling, and more aligned with your purpose. What once felt like denial will soon be recognized as the protection that kept you on a path capable of holding the weight of your destiny. A powerful honesty begins to settle in your spirit because the disappointments you carried, the ones that shook you, confused you, or made you question your worth, were actually barriers placed for your preservation. You've lived through moments where you longed for specific outcomes, prayed for certain relationships to work, hoped for particular opportunities to unfold, or fought to hold on to things that felt meaningful. When those things didn't materialize, you felt hurt and sometimes even abandoned. You wondered if you had misheard your own desires or misread the direction of your life. Yet the truth behind those experiences wasn't rejection. It was protection from the weight of something that would have fractured parts of you still in the process of healing. There are circumstances that look beneficial on the surface yet carry hidden fractures beneath. There are people who appear supportive but carry patterns that would have drained your emotional strength. There are opportunities that seem promising but demand sacrifices you weren't meant to make. You didn't know the depth of those unseen realities, but they were visible to the wisdom guiding your steps. What didn't reach you wasn't withheld to punish you. It was blocked to safeguard you. If certain things had entered your life at the wrong time, or at all, they would have placed demands on your heart or your peace that would have overwhelmed you. You were being shielded from situations that seemed desirable but carried consequences that would have weakened the foundation of your future. Sometimes the things you desperately wanted were simply too heavy for your spirit to carry at that stage of your growth. Sometimes the person you hoped would stay wasn't stable enough to honor the depth of your loyalty. Sometimes the opportunity you thought would change your life would have actually diverted you from the path that leads to genuine fulfillment. You weren't denied, you were spared. And in the quiet spaces of your spirit, you can already sense that this is true. You've grown in ways that only clarity can confirm. You now understand yourself more deeply. You recognize your needs with greater accuracy. You know your boundaries, your values, and your worth with more confidence than before. If some of those earlier desires had come into your life before you grew into this stronger version of yourself, they would have unsettled your identity. The things that didn't reach you were kept from colliding with your heart before you were ready to handle them, or because they never belonged to you in the first place. Now, instead of seeing those blockages as loss, you'll begin to recognize them as guardians of your future. They prevented harm that would have wounded you in ways you weren't prepared to recover from. You weren't broken by those no's. You were protected for the yes that is still ahead. A deeper insight begins to rise inside you because the blessings you've been waiting for, the ones you imagined, prayed for, and sometimes cried over, did not bypass you. They were held in place until your life, your heart, and your character reached the strength required to sustain them. You looked at others receiving what seemed to come easily to them and wondered why your own path didn't unfold the same way. You questioned your timing, doubted your readiness, and sometimes felt overlooked in the process. But the truth is far more compassionate than you realized. The blessings you sought were never out of reach. They were waiting for your internal and external foundations to become strong enough to carry them without collapsing under their weight. Blessings aren't only gifts. They are responsibilities, commitments, expansions, and transformations. Some blessings require emotional maturity. Some require stability. Some require healed self-worth. Some require deeper discipline, clarity, or boundaries. If those gifts had arrived before you were prepared, they might have overwhelmed you, changed you too quickly, or drawn you into situations you weren't yet capable of navigating. It's not that you were unworthy. It's that your blessing was too valuable to be given prematurely. Think of the dreams you've held quietly in your heart, the desires for love, success, purpose, peace, or opportunity. Each of those dreams carries weight. A relationship meant to support your future requires a version of you who can love without losing yourself. A career door meant for long-term fulfillment requires confidence and boldness you are still learning to embrace. A financial breakthrough requires patterns that ensure sustainability rather than sudden collapse. A spiritual calling requires inner grounding so your purpose won't be swayed by external noise. None of this is punishment, it is preparation. Look at the changes you've undergone in recent seasons. Your resilience has strengthened. Your boundaries have sharpened. Your emotional awareness has grown. Your understanding of yourself has deepened. These internal developments are not random. They are the foundation being laid so the blessings you long for can land safely and permanently. You're not waiting for the blessing. The blessing have been waiting for you to become the person who can hold it with confidence, wisdom, and longevity. The timing is aligning now. The foundation you've built, slowly, intentionally, sometimes painfully, is becoming strong enough to support the weight of what is coming. You haven't missed your moment. You've been preparing for it. And as the foundation settles into place, the blessings once held back will begin to move toward you with clarity and purpose, fitting into your life in ways that will make every moment of waiting finally make sense. There is a stirring around you now, subtle yet unmistakable, because something long restrained is beginning to move toward your life with a sense of purpose that wasn't present before. You've carried hopes that felt suspended, dreams that seemed paused, and promises that felt distant, and for a long time you assumed the delay was a denial or a sign that what you desired wasn't meant for you. But what you couldn't see was that the timing had more weight than the request itself. What you were waiting for required alignment, within you, around you, and ahead of you. And now, that alignment is finally forming, piece by piece, shaping a moment where the things held back by timing, maturity, and protection can begin to flow into your life without resistance or fragmentation. You've been in a season where your patience has been stretched thin, where your faith has been tested, and where your hope has had to stand without visible reassurance. Yet even in your frustration, something inside you remained open, willing to believe that what was meant for you could not die in the waiting. That openness mattered. It created a space within your spirit where the fulfillment of delayed blessings could finally rest. The things that were held back weren't withheld out of neglect. They were preserved until your character, your environment, and your emotional capacity could sustain them. Some of the blessings coming weren't ready before. Some were still forming, still developing, still aligning with other pieces of your story. And some required you to become someone who could receive them without losing yourself in the process. Now the atmosphere around your life is shifting. You may not see the full picture yet, but you can feel the movement. The quiet confidence rising in your chest, the renewed hope stirring inside you, the sense that something is unfolding beyond your line of sight. This isn't imagination. It's preparation manifesting in the spiritual and emotional parts of your life. Opportunities you once thought had disappeared are circling back in better form. Connections that once seemed delayed are drawing nearer. Parts of yourself that were once uncertain are becoming steadier. What is coming has weight, and that weight requires the stability you've been developing in ways you didn't always recognize. You're approaching a moment where the things you've waited for will not slip from your grasp. The appointed time is not abstract or distant. It is approaching with clarity, rhythm, and intention. You're moving into a season where the release will feel natural, almost inevitable, as if everything was always meant to unfold exactly like this. Allow yourself to lean into this shift without fear. What's being released is not fragile. It's not temporary. It's not accidental. It's the unveiling of what had been maturing in the unseen, coming to meet you now in the fullness of its purpose. There is a quiet orchestration taking place around you, shaping connections and circumstances in ways you haven't fully noticed yet, because the alignment happening in your life is working beneath the surface, steady, strategic, and deeply intentional. You've been walking through seasons where your relationships felt uncertain, your opportunities seemed inconsistent, and your support systems appeared fragile. You question why certain connections faded, why certain chances dissolved, why certain needs went unmet. Yet what seemed like disarray was actually the clearing of your path so that what truly belongs in your next chapter could enter without interference or distortion. You're stepping into a moment where the right people, the right doors, and the right provision are converging at the same time, forming the support structure your purpose requires. Some relationships are being strengthened because they carry endurance that will sustain you. Some will re-enter your life in newly evolved form because growth has reshaped both parties in ways that now align. Others are making their exit quietly because their influence, the once meaningful, cannot move with you into what's next. And while these shifts may feel emotional or unexpected, they are necessary for your forward movement. You are not losing people. You are making room for connections that build you, support you, and encourage the fullness of who you are becoming. Relationships aligned with your purpose will feel different. They will settle easily into your life, without strain or uncertainty, and you will recognize them not by intensity, but by steadiness. Opportunities are forming in the same way. Some of the doors that once seemed shut were never meant to open because they would have misdirected your energy, diluted your focus, or minimized your potential. Now, new opportunities will begin to appear, not as overwhelming options, but as distinct pathways that resonate with your identity. You'll notice ideas forming with clarity, invitations emerging without effort, and moments of favor that seem almost too perfectly timed to be coincidence. These openings are not random. They are the result of the internal work you've done, the resilience you've built, and the courage you've shown through seasons that could have hardened your heart but didn't. Resources, emotional, financial, relational, and spiritual, are also aligning. What you need for the next stage of your journey will not arrive in scattered fragments. It will appear with cohesion, reinforcing your steps as you move forward. Support will come from unexpected places. Provision will show up without the panic that used to accompany your needs. Stability will replace scarcity in your mindset and in your circumstances. You are being positioned for a season where alignment becomes the rhythm of your life, guiding you gently yet unmistakably into what has been waiting for you all along. A deeper clarity is beginning to form within you because the events of your life, especially the ones that caused confusion, frustration, or heartbreak, are shifting from chaotic fragments into pieces of a larger, intentional design. For so long, you questioned why certain experiences unfolded the way they did. You wondered why some relationships fell apart abruptly, why certain dreams remained unfulfilled, why specific opportunities dissolved just when they seemed within reach. You carried those questions quietly, sometimes blaming yourself, sometimes blaming timing, sometimes blaming circumstances beyond your control. Yet the truth is beginning to surface. Every moment, even the difficult ones, has been shaping the exact path you needed to walk. The way things unfolded wasn't arbitrary. The timing wasn't flawed. The outcomes weren't mistakes. Each shift redirected you away from something that would have compromised your growth or your peace. Each delay created space for you to develop the wisdom required for the blessings ahead. Each disappointment removed illusions that would have kept you bound to old versions of yourself. Though you didn't see it then, you were being routed toward a future that aligns with your identity, not with your fears or your old expectations. Some lessons could only be learned through the experiences you went through. Some strengths could only be built by surviving what challenged you. Some clarity could only be found through walking paths that didn't turn out the way you hoped. There will come a moment, not far from now, when the fragments of your past align with the direction of your future, and you will recognize the necessity of each experience. You'll understand why certain individuals couldn't say. You'll realize why certain desires faded while others intensified. You'll see how pain forged compassion, how loss shaped strength, and how uncertainty cultivated discernment. The clarity approaching you will not be subtle. It will touch every part of your story, illuminating moments that once seemed meaningless or cruel, revealing how they contributed to a larger purpose than you ever imagined. You've grown into someone who can finally hold this understanding without resentment. The maturity that has been forming within you is preparing you to see your path from a higher perspective, one that honors both your humanity and your purpose. This is why it had to happen this way, because you needed the experiences that shaped your heart, the timing that built your resilience, and the shifts that protected your future. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. And soon, what once hurt you will become the very proof that your life has been unfolding with precision all along. Something powerful is quietly unfolding within you, because every place where your heart has been bruised, stretched, or left aching has also become a doorway to deeper strength and maturity. You've walked through experiences that tested your emotional capacity, moments where trust was broken, hopes were disappointed, and expectations dissolved in ways you didn't see coming. Those wounds left marks you've tried to hide or ignore, believing they made you weaker or less capable of love, purpose, or confidence. Yet beneath the surface of those hurts, something resilient has been forming. Pain didn't reduce you. It refined you. Each emotional impact softened the rigid parts of you, made your empathy richer, and carved out a humility that allows you to learn, adapt, and grow with greater ease than ever before. Your heart has been through enough to know what emptiness feels like, yet it still yearns for connection, meaning, healing, and truth. That desire alone shows strength, because a hardened heart stops wanting anything at all. Yours remains open, even if only partially, and that openness is the very evidence of growth. You've become more discerning than you were before. You don't give your trust away as quickly, but when you do, it's rooted in genuine intention rather than hopeful illusion. You've learned to recognize when someone's presence supports your peace and when it disturbs it. That awareness is shaping a wiser version of you, one who moves with emotional clarity rather than emotional desperation. The wounded places inside you are not signs of failure. They are signs of transformation. Pain hath been molding your patience, teaching you how to listen more carefully, not only to others, but to yourself. It has guided you to ask deeper questions, to understand your own needs, and to choose paths that honor your worth instead of pathways built on fear or loneliness. Because of what you've endured, you're becoming more teachable, not in the sense of being submissive or weak, but in the sense that you've opened yourself to learning from each experience instead of closing off from life. Your heart is gaining stability. The emotions that once overwhelmed you are becoming easier to navigate. Decisions that once felt heavy now come with clearer intuition. You're shifting from reacting to understanding, from carrying wounds to transforming them. And as this strength continues to rise inside you, you'll begin to notice something else. Your capacity to love, to trust, to dream, and to hope again is returning, not as it once was, but in a deeper, wiser, more grounded form. What once broke you is now shaping a heart capable of holding far more than you imagined. There is a quiet steadiness taking root inside you, because even though your faith has been stretched, tested, and disrupted by disappointment or confusion, it has not disappeared. It has been reshaped. You've lived through moments where hope felt fragile, where the weight of your circumstances made you question everything you believed, and where you felt guilty for struggling to trust. You assumed that shaken faith meant failing faith, but that isn't true. What you've been experiencing is the transformation of faith, shifting from something built on feelings or circumstances into something rooted in deeper truth and inner resilience. You've asked questions you never thought you would ask. You've wondered whether your prayers mattered. You've doubted whether your steps were guided or whether life was simply unfolding randomly. Those internal battles didn't weaken you. They forced you to search more deeply for meaning. They moved your faith away from shallow certainty and into a grounded understanding that can weather storms. Even when you didn't feel strong, something inside you kept reaching, kept hoping, kept trying to believe again. That small spark, sometimes barely noticeable, was enough to keep your spirit alive during seasons that felt overwhelming. Your faith is becoming unshakable not because you never encountered challenges, but because you encountered them and survived. You've stood in moments where your confidence trembled, but your spirit refused to collapse. You've moved through days where giving up felt easier, yet a quiet determination kept you standing. That determination wasn't accidental. It was the foundation of your faith being rebuilt, not on idealism, but on experience, endurance, and a deepening understanding that truth remains steady even when emotions fluctuate. What's forming inside you now is a faith that is less dependent on external signs and more grounded in inner alignment. It's becoming a steady anchor instead of a fragile hope. You're learning to trust without needing constant reassurance, to move forward even when the path isn't completely clear, and to believe in purpose even when timing feels uncertain. This kind of faith doesn't tremble at every challenge. It doesn't crumble when circumstances shift. It stands because it has been tested and found stronger than it once seemed. As this unshakable faith grows, you'll begin to feel more centered, more confident, and more aligned with your true path. You're emerging from your struggles with a stability that will carry you through future seasons with wisdom and calm. Your faith is not fragile. It's becoming a force within you, quiet, steady, and enduring. A profound renewal is starting to unfold around you, because the areas of your life that once felt shattered, incomplete, or permanently damaged are becoming places of restoration. You've carried losses that weighed on your spirit and broken pieces that you weren't sure could ever be put back together. Whether it was the loss of trust, the loss of opportunity, the loss of time, or the loss of parts of yourself you thought were gone forever, each of those wounds left impressions you learned to live with, even when they continued to ache beneath the surface. Yet the season approaching you now carries a different energy, one rooted in renewal rather than survival. Restoration doesn't mean returning to the way things used to be. It means returning to what is true, whole, and aligned. You're entering a time where what was taken, damaged, or fractured will be rebuilt, not as a replica of the past, but as something stronger, wiser, and more deeply connected to who you are now. Some relationships may be restored in healthier ways. Some dreams may be revived with clearer vision. Parts of your identity you thought you lost may return with greater depth and authenticity. Opportunities that once slipped away may re-emerge in refined form. And areas where you felt powerless will begin to fill with strength. This restoration is not random. It's the result of the inner work you've done through seasons of pain and confusion. You are no longer the person who was wounded. You're someone who has grown through the experience and now carries the capacity to rebuild with intention. Restoration requires readiness, and you've reached that readiness through your endurance. Your perspective has changed. Your heart is more open. Your boundaries are clearer. Your spirit is more grounded. All of these qualities position you to receive what's returning, not with fear or desperation, but with clarity and wisdom. Redemption is also rising in your life, meaning that what once felt wasted will begin to birth new purpose. The time you thought you lost is being woven into deeper timing. The seasons you believed were pointless are becoming part of your strength. Even the mistakes you regret are becoming teachers rather than prisons. Nothing that happened to you or through you is being discarded. It's being transformed. As this season unfolds, you'll begin to recognize how restoration feels, not rushed, not forced, but steady and undeniable. What once hurt you will soften. What once confused you will make sense. And what once felt broken will become a testimony of resilience and renewal. You are stepping into a chapter where loss turns into meaning and where brokenness becomes the birthplace of your greatest wholeness. There is a quiet reversal beginning in your life, because the things you lost, the things that slipped away, were taken, or dissolved for reasons you couldn't control, are not gone forever. You've carried memories of those losses like shadows that follow you into moments where you're trying to rebuild your sense of hope. There were seasons when something meaningful was suddenly out of reach, a relationship that held promise, an opportunity that lit up your imagination, a plan that once felt secure, or a part of yourself you didn't realize was fading until it was gone. Those experiences left impressions on your heart, leaving you to wonder if life had simply taken more than it ever intended to give back. But what's unfolding now is not a return to what used to be. It's a return in greater form, shaped through time, growth, and wisdom, and aligned with the person you've become. What was taken from you wasn't removed to diminish you. It was removed because the version you would have received back then wasn't strong enough, healthy enough, or aligned enough to support your long-term good. Some of the things you lost were incomplete forms of what you were meant to receive. Others were taken so that you wouldn't settle prematurely. And a few were removed so you could heal the parts of you that might have mishandled the blessing had it arrived before your heart was ready. What's returning now is not the fragile version you once held onto. It's a refined version, expanded, strengthened, and transformed by the timing and shaping that took place behind the scenes. The return may not look identical to what you once knew. It may come through new people, new opportunities, new forms of provision, or new expressions of purpose. But it will carry a familiarity that resonates with a part of your spirit that thought the loss defined your future. This restoration will show you that life doesn't simply compensate. It multiplies. What left your hands will be returned to your life in ways that carry deeper meaning, richer value, and greater alignment. You aren't receiving leftovers. You're receiving a harvest from seeds that were buried beneath the soil of your pain. As this greater return unfolds, you'll begin to understand that nothing was truly stolen from your destiny. You weren't emptied. You were being prepared. The disappointment you felt wasn't the final version of the story. It was a transition point. And now, as the things you once lost begin to reappear in renewed form, you'll recognize that your story has been unfolding with a precision that honors your growth. The greater form that's coming will not only restore your hope, it will make you grateful that you waited for what was truly meant for you. There is a shift happening around you that feels almost electric, because the prayers you whispered in vulnerable moments, the ones you thought fell into silence, have been gathering momentum behind the unseen. You prayed during seasons when your heart was tender, when your future felt uncertain, and when you needed direction more than anything else. And while it seemed like your words dissolved into emptiness, they were being collected and carried through a process far more intricate than you understood at the time. You assumed the silence meant you were unheard. You assumed the delay meant the answer was denied. But every prayer has been working its way toward you, shaped by timing, protection, and a wisdom that sees farther than you can imagine. Some of the answers required preparation not only in your circumstances but in your heart. You needed clarity before receiving what you asked for. You needed healing before stepping into what you longed for. You needed emotional and spiritual depth before holding the fullness of the blessing. Other prayers required alignment with people, opportunities, and environments that weren't ready at the time. This is why the answers seemed delayed. They were waiting for every piece to come together in a way that would support your long-term good rather than a momentary relief. Now, the timing has shifted. The atmosphere around your life is opening, creating space for answers to appear not vaguely or quietly, but openly, visible in ways you cannot miss. What once felt like soft whispers will begin to manifest as undeniable outcomes. Situations you prayed about will start to unfold effortlessly. The clarity you sought will arrive in moments of calm recognition. Breakthroughs you waited for will appear with momentum that surprises you. These answers won't require you to force them or question whether they are meant for you. They will settle into your life with the assurance of something long prepared and finally released. You'll begin to see signs of these answers in subtle ways at first. Small confirmations, gentle alignments, unexpected openings. Then the larger shifts will follow, each one unfolding naturally, as if they had been waiting for the perfect moment to arrive. This is not coincidence, it is fulfillment. And you'll know it when it happens because the answers will touch the same places in your heart where the questions first formed. You are approaching a season where what was prayed for in private will manifest in ways that strengthen your faith, deepen your gratitude, and remind you that your words were never dismissed. They were being positioned for a perfect unveiling. There is a quiet revelation unfolding in your life now because blessings you didn't know were forming, blessings that grew in silence, outside your perception, are beginning to rise to the surface. These aren't the blessings you actively pursued or prayed about. These are the ones that developed without your awareness, built slowly through circumstances you thought were meaningless, painful, or uneventful. They have been maturing beneath the layers of your everyday life, taking shape in moments when you assumed nothing was happening at all. You've wondered why certain seasons felt uneventful, why progress seemed invisible, why your life felt like it was standing still. But stillness was not stagnation, it was cultivation. In the unseen places, your resilience was strengthening, your judgment was sharpening, your emotional depth was expanding, and your inner wisdom was quietly maturing. These internal shifts are blessings themselves, but they've also been preparing you for blessings externally. Doors opening, relationships forming, opportunities aligning, healing unfolding. You didn't notice the formation because it didn't look dramatic. It didn't announce itself with emotional highs or sudden breakthroughs. Instead, it grew quietly, like roots deepening beneath the soil before any visible growth appears above the surface. These hidden blessings have taken time because they are meant to last. Quick blessings fade under pressure, but mature blessings hold their shape. They are sustainable, grounded, and aligned with your long-term purpose. And that is why they were kept out of sight until now, so that when they emerge, they do so with stability rather than fragility. You are stepping into a season where these blessings will begin to reveal themselves through opportunities that feel aligned, relationships that feel genuine, ideas that ignite your passion, and moments of clarity that feel like breakthroughs after a long silence. You will begin to recognize these blessings not by their size, but by their resonance. They will feel like something your spirit hath been waiting for without fully understanding why. They will fit into your life with ease rather than force. They will support your growth rather than distract from it. And as they unfold, you'll realize that nothing in your life was ever idle. Every season had purpose. Every delay had intention. Every quiet moment carried preparation. The unveiling happening now is not sudden. It's simply the moment when what hath been growing in the dark finally rises into the light. And as you witness it, you'll understand that the unseen has always been working in your favor, shaping blessings that are now ready to become part of your story. There is a profound shift rising from within you, because the very places where you once felt powerless, overlooked, or crushed under the weight of disappointment are becoming the birthplaces of your most meaningful breakthroughs. You've walked through seasons where defeat felt final, moments where you questioned your strength, doubted your purpose, or wondered if you would ever recover from what life had taken from you. Those struggles left impressions on your spirit, making you feel as though your story had been marked by endings rather than beginnings. But what you couldn't see at the time was the quiet restructuring taking place beneath the surface, shaping resilience, clarity, and inner strength that could only come from confronting hardship directly. What once seemed like the end of your progress was actually the soil where transformation began to take root. Some of your deepest breakthroughs are forming in the aftermath of your most painful chapters. The areas where you once felt weakest are becoming the areas where you rise with the most authority. The relationships that left you wounded have made room for connections rooted in authenticity and depth. The opportunities that slipped away taught you how to recognize what is truly aligned with your calling. The heartbreaks that left you trembling gave you a new capacity for compassion, wisdom, and strength. The setbacks that made you question your path created the foundation for a future you would not have been ready for otherwise. Breakthroughs aren't born from comfort. They emerge through the very experiences that challenge you to grow beyond your limits. You may not have realized it then, but each moment of defeat pushed you closer to the edge of transformation. You were learning how to navigate pain without letting it define you. You were learning how to rebuild yourself from the inside, how to trust your inner voice, and how to recognize what truly matters. These breakthroughs come with a different kind of certainty, one built not on fleeting emotion but on lived experience. You've grown through storms that others never witnessed. You've carried burdens with a strength you didn't even know you had. And now, those very burdens are turning into the wisdom that shapes your next chapter. As this breakthrough unfolds, you'll begin to see how each struggle contributed to your resilience. You'll realize that without those moments of defeat, you would not have gained the perspective or depth required to carry the blessings you're stepping into. Your breakthrough isn't coming from a place of ease but from a place of survival, growth, and transformation. It rises from the deepest parts of you, parts that refused to break even when you felt shattered. What once felt like your lowest point is becoming the foundation of your greatest strength. Something beautiful is taking shape within you, because the wounds that once felt raw, overwhelming, and isolating are beginning to transform into stories of strength that hold the power to encourage others. You've lived through experiences that cut deeply, moments of betrayal, loss, disappointment, or personal failure that left your heart aching in ways you couldn't fully express. These wounds shaped your internal world, leaving marks you weren't sure would ever heal. But healing has been working quietly through your life, slowly stitching together parts of you that once felt torn apart. And as those wounds begin to close, they are creating testimonies, not of perfection, but of endurance, resilience, and hope. Your story carries power because it carries truth. The vulnerability you once tried to hide is becoming a source of connection for others who feel alone in their battles. The emotions you wrestled with, the shame, the confusion, the fear, the grief, are becoming bridges for people who don't know how to climb out of their own darkness. There will be a moment when someone hears what you've overcome, and in your honesty, they'll see a reflection of their own potential. You'll become living proof that healing is possible, that restoration is real, and that brokenness is not the final chapter. Your wounds will not define you. They will guide others. They will show them what strength looks like when it grows quietly in the background of life. They will show them what courage looks like when hope is faint. They will show them what endurance looks like when quitting feels easier. These testimonies don't need to be dramatic or perfectly packaged. They simply need to be honest. And honesty is something your healed heart will offer with gentleness and wisdom. The pain you felt was not wasted, and deepened your compassion. It sharpened your discernment. It gave you insight into emotions you may never have understood without walking through them yourself. This new understanding allows you to support others with a level of authenticity that can't be taught. Your presence becomes healing because you know what it feels like to hurt. Your words carry authority because they were shaped in the fire of experience. Your empathy becomes a balm because you've learned how to walk through darkness without losing your sense of direction. Your wounds are becoming testimonies, not to glorify pain, but to illuminate the strength that rises from healing. You will look back and realize that what once felt unbearable is now the very thing making you a source of encouragement for others. Your scars are no longer signs of what harmed you, they are signs of what you survived. And they will strengthen others in ways you can't yet imagine. A profound shift is happening inside you because the pain you endured, the emotional, mental, or spiritual anguish that once felt senseless, is beginning to reveal a deeper meaning. For a long time, your struggle felt like a burden without explanation. You faced challenges that stretched you beyond what seemed reasonable, experienced losses that left your spirit aching, and carried questions that didn't have immediate answers. It felt unfair, confusing, and heavy. But each part of your struggle had been shaping insight, resilience, and understanding in ways you couldn't recognize while you were still immersed in the difficulty. Now, the very pain that once felt meaningless is turning into purpose, and the very struggles that once felt overwhelming are forming strategies for your future. The pain you carried taught you how to recognize what truly matters. It showed you what your values are, how deeply you feel, and how much strength you possess. It revealed weaknesses you needed to address and strengths you didn't know you had. Through that journey, your purpose began forming quietly. You discovered what inspires you, what moves you, and what drives you to create change, not simply because you want to, but because you've lived the reality of what needs healing. Being open, you perceive you. It helped you see what others may overlook. It trained you to notice emotional nuance, spiritual truth, and human need with extraordinary awareness. Likewise, your struggles are becoming strategies, wisdom packaged in experience. The things you learned the hard way are becoming tools you'll use to navigate life with precision. The situations that once overwhelmed you now grant you insight into how to avoid unnecessary harm. You know what environments suffocate your spirit and which ones support it. You know which patterns lead to chaos and which ones foster peace. You know how to read a room, read a person, read yourself. All because struggle taught you how to pay attention. What once felt like senseless suffering is becoming the blueprint for your next season. You will guide others more effectively because you know the path firsthand. You will protect your peace more fiercely because you understand its value. You will pursue your purpose with clarity because your pain has shown you what direction not to return to. Nothing you went through was wasted. It was shaping insight that will carry you forward with strength and intention. Your pain is becoming purpose, not because the hardship was good, but because your transformation is powerful. Your struggle is becoming strategy, not because the battle was easy, but because the lessons forged through it will serve you for the rest of your life. This is the beginning of seeing meaning where you once only saw wounds. There is a stirring inside you that you've been sensing but haven't fully understood, because gifts that once lay dormant are beginning to rise to the surface with a strength and clarity you never expected. These abilities, insights, and talents were never absent. You simply hadn't reached the season where they could be revealed. You spent years believing you were average in certain areas, unaware that your experiences were shaping sensitivities, perceptions, and strengths that would one day become some of your greatest tools. You've always had depth, but now that depth is unfolding into purpose. You may not realize it yet, but the way you intuitively understand people, the way you see truth beneath the surface, the way you endure storms with quiet resilience, these are gifts that were cultivated through the hidden chapters of your life. Every challenge you faced, every period of silence you endured, and every moment of confusion refined these abilities until they became part of your inner wisdom. These gifts aren't dramatic or flashy. They are rooted in authenticity and grounded in lived experience. You'll begin to notice them appearing naturally in your interactions, through the comfort you offer others without thinking, through the clarity you speak into situations where others feel lost, through the creative spark that ignites ideas you once overlooked, through the leadership rising in you even when you don't seek attention. You'll find yourself stepping into roles and opportunities that feel surprisingly natural, as if you've been preparing for them without realizing it. This awakening isn't something you need to force or accelerate. It will unfold organically, shaped by the healing and growth you've already walked through. As these gifts emerge, you'll also recognize the purpose behind seasons where you questioned your worth. It was during those times that empathy was sharpened, discernment was strengthened, and your heart learned how to notice what others overlook. What once felt like weakness is becoming your greatest strength. The things you thought disqualified you are becoming the very qualities that reveal your calling. You're beginning to move with a different kind of confidence, not boldness rooted in ego, but assurance rooted in authenticity. You're stepping into a deeper understanding of who you are and what you carry. This awakening is not just for your benefit. It is meant to ripple outward. Your gifts will touch lives, shift atmospheres, and impact people in ways you can't yet predict. They will guide you toward opportunities that align with your identity and purpose. They will open doors not because you chase them, but because you're ready for them. Allow these gifts to rise without fear. They are not accidents. They are evidence of the greatness forming within you. Something sacred has remained within you through every season of hardship, disappointment, an internal battle, a strength, a calling, a unique spiritual imprint that adversity tried to shake but could never take. You've endured challenges that would have hardened many hearts or extinguished their hope altogether. Yet here you are, not perfect, not untouched, but still carrying an inner fire that refuses to die out. That fire is the mark of your anointing, an unseen authority, a quiet spiritual weight, a depth that cannot be explained by personality alone. This anointing is the reason you survived battles that felt bigger than you. It's the reason certain attacks felt unusually intense. It's the reason you've been stretched, shaken, and pressed more than others around you. Because adversity recognized the power within you long before you did. This anointing is not about status or titles. It's not about religious performance or public recognition. It's about the undeniable resilience, grace, and insight woven into your soul. It's the reason you can walk into a room and sense what others cannot. It's why your presence brings comfort to people who barely know you. It's why your voice carries weight even when you whisper. It's why your life, even in its imperfections, reveals strength in places where others expect to find defeat. The struggles that tried to break you didn't succeed because your spirit carries a purpose that adversity cannot override. You felt moments when heaviness seemed to fall on you without explanation, or when challenges surfaced unexpectedly, almost as if something was trying to stop you from growing. But those pressures weren't signs of weakness. They were indicators of the significance of what you carry. Diamonds are formed in pressure. Oil is pressed from olives. Gold is refined through fire. You weren't being destroyed. You were being strengthened, purified, and prepared. The anointing on your life has grown deeper through every storm you endured. It has become more refined, more grounded, more powerful. And now, you are stepping into a season where this anointing will begin to show outwardly in ways it never has before. Not through dramatic displays, but through a steady, confident presence. Through clarity in your decisions. Through wisdom beyond your years. Through compassion that feels supernatural. Through a calm strength that anchors others. You will move through life with a sense of purpose that adversity can no longer intimidate. The anointing on your life didn't vanish in your darkest moments. It survived every hardship, every heartbreak, every setback. And now it will rise into visibility, not because you forced it, but because it was destined to endure. There is a divine reversal unfolding in your story, because the very situations that once felt destructive, the betrayals, the setbacks, the disappointments, the moments that fractured your confidence, are becoming catalysts for transformation. You faced experiences that seemed designed to break your spirit or derail your progress. You've encountered people who took advantage of your kindness, circumstances that felt unfair, and moments where darkness appeared to have the upper hand. During those times, you questioned your path, your strength, and your ability to rise again. Yet what you couldn't see was the careful unfolding of a greater plan, one that takes every attack, every loss, every setback and rearranges it with a precision that reveals meaning where there once was only pain. Nothing that worked against you will succeed in defining you. Every attempt to undermine you is being repositioned as a step toward your elevation. Every wound is being reshaped into wisdom. Every setback is becoming a setup for an opportunity that will align perfectly with your growth. You are beginning to see glimpses of this transformation already. In your increased clarity, your strengthened boundaries, your deeper insight into people and situations. What once harmed you is now teaching you. What once discouraged you is strengthening you. What once confused you is clarifying your purpose. The reversal happening in your life is not accidental. It's intentional. It's precise. It's guided by timing and shaped by wisdom far beyond your understanding. You'll begin to notice how certain things start aligning in ways that feel too specific to be coincidence. How conversations, connections, or new opportunities suddenly emerge in areas where you previously experienced loss. You'll find that the very places where you felt defeated will become the places where you rise with the most confidence. The negative intentions of others are losing their influence over your story because they cannot override the purpose being built within you. This transformation doesn't erase the pain you endured, but it gives it meaning. It turns suffering into strength, brokenness into breakthrough, darkness into direction. You'll look back on experiences that once felt senseless and see how they shaped compassion, resilience, and discernment you now rely on. Nothing was wasted. Every detail is being woven into a narrative of redemption. The enemy meant to weaken you, but you are emerging stronger. The enemy meant to silence you, but your voice is growing clearer. The enemy meant to discourage you, but purpose is rising from the ashes of your past. This reversal is not random. It's the unfolding of a promise that your story will not end in defeat, but in a victory shaped with precision and carried out in your favor. There is a turning unfolding inside you right now, because the part of your journey you once assumed was the end, the part marked by exhaustion, disappointment, or confusion, was never meant to be your final chapter. You've had moments where life felt paused, where hope dimmed, where you questioned whether your best days had already passed. That heaviness weighed on your spirit more deeply than you let others see. You tried to keep moving forward, but something inside you quietly wondered whether your story had already peaked, whether the meaningful parts were behind you. Yet what you didn't realize was that an entirely new chapter was forming quietly beneath the surface while you were simply trying to survive. Every detour you faced has been shaping you, refining you, and positioning you for this next part of your life, a chapter filled with purpose, clarity, and opportunities that align with the person you are becoming. You are not restarting from scratch. You are stepping forward with wisdom forged through experience. This chapter will not resemble the ones behind you because you now carry depth you didn't have before. You've learned what drained you and what fueled you. You've learned the difference between what is temporary and what is truly meaningful. You've learned how to listen to the quiet truth inside yourself instead of the noise around you. All of these lessons are preparing you to walk into the next phase with confidence rather than fear, clarity rather than confusion. This new chapter is not about recovering what was lost. It's about discovering what is now possible because of everything you've grown through. There will be new opportunities that fit your spirit instead of forcing you to shrink. There will be relationships that honor your value rather than take advantage of your loyalty. There will be breakthroughs that settle into your life naturally, without the strain or pressure you once thought was normal. You'll begin to feel a sense of alignment, as if the path beneath you is finally matching the rhythm inside you. You may not know the details of what comes next, but you can feel the shift, the sense that something meaningful is arriving, something that carries the weight of destiny rather than coincidence. This chapter is not a continuation of old pain. It's the unfolding of a story that has been waiting for you to reach this moment of readiness. You are stepping into a season that holds purpose you couldn't have embraced earlier, strength you didn't know you had, and opportunities specially shaped for the version of you who exists now. You are not at the end. You are at the threshold of what you were always meant to become. There is a nearness forming around you that is more intimate, more grounding, and more steady than anything you've experienced before, because this season of your life requires a deeper level of connection and clarity than previous chapters. You've walked through phases where the spiritual atmosphere felt distant, where your prayers seemed to echo back without response, and where you questioned whether guidance was still available to you. Those moments didn't mean absence, they meant preparation. You were learning to listen beyond emotion, learning to discern beyond circumstance, learning to trust even when the path felt dim. And now that your spirit has been shaped through endurance, understanding, and quiet surrender, you are entering a season where you will sense spiritual closeness with a clarity that surprises you. This nearness won't always appear dramatic or overwhelming. It will show itself in subtle but unmistakable ways. A sudden peace when you should feel anxious, a moment of insight that resolves a problem you've wrestled with for months, an unexpected comfort when you are alone, a sense of direction in the middle of uncertainty, or a quiet reassurance that arrives at the exact moment you feel weak. These encounters are not imagination. They are evidence that connection is deepening. You're becoming more sensitive to the nudges, wisdom, and guidance flowing toward you, and that sensitivity is a sign of spiritual maturity rather than emotional instability. Your awareness will sharpen. You'll notice alignment where you once saw coincidence. You'll feel clarity where you once felt confusion. You'll sense warning where something isn't meant for you, and peace where a path is aligned with your purpose. This heightened awareness isn't random. It's the natural outcome of everything you've healed, learned, and endured. You've cleared space in your heart, mind, and spirit, space that now allows you to perceive spiritual presence with fewer distortions and fewer distractions. As this presence becomes clearer, you will find yourself making decisions with greater confidence, speaking with more authority, and moving with the assurance that you are guided rather than abandoned. You'll notice synchronicities that reassure you you're walking in the right direction. You'll feel comfort in moments of loneliness, perspective shifting in moments of frustration, and strength rising in moments of weariness. All of it points to the reality that you are not navigating this season by instinct alone. You are moving with guidance that is closer and clearer than ever before. The closeness you're entering into is not fleeting. It's the beginning of a deeper relationship, one built on trust, surrender, insight, and connection. You will feel this presence not just in moments of desperation, but in the everyday rhythms of your life. There is a gentle confidence forming within you because the pressure to figure everything out at once is being replaced by guidance that unfolds gradually, intentionally, and at a pace meant to protect your peace. You've stood at crossroads that felt overwhelming, moments where every decision carried weight, and the fear of choosing wrong created tension in your mind. You tried to map out your future years ahead, hoping that certainty would calm your anxieties. But life didn't unfold that way. Instead, your path has been revealing itself step by step, often only after you moved forward in faith, even when you didn't have the full picture. That process wasn't meant to frustrate you. It was meant to teach you how to walk with guidance rather than fear. You don't need to see 5 steps ahead to move in the right direction. You only need enough clarity for the next step. That is not limitation. It is protection. When you try to grasp too much at once, you overwhelm your spirit, overthink your decisions, and lose sight of what actually matters. But when you move one step at a time, you remain sensitive to what is unfolding in the moment. You stay aligned with truth rather than anxiety. You make decisions rooted in peace rather than pressure. This is why the guidance you're receiving is becoming more specific, more grounded, and more tailored to your current situation. The right steps will come as quiet impressions, unexpected ideas, emotional clarity, or a sense of alignment that simply feels right. They won't always appear dramatic, but they will carry a resonance that distinguishes them from the noise of your worries. As you learn to trust this process, you'll notice that the decisions you once agonized over begin to feel easier. Not because the circumstances change, but because your confidence in your ability to follow wisdom is growing. Confusion is giving way to trust. Uncertainty is giving way to intuition. Fear is giving way to clarity. You're not walking blindly. You're walking with a guidance system that is more accurate than your anxiety, more consistent than your doubts, and more patient than your fears. Each step will lead naturally to the next, and as you move, you'll begin to see the path forming in ways you couldn't have predicted. You will make choices with increasing assurance, recognizing that you are supported, not abandoned, guided, not lost. This step-by-step unfolding will lead you exactly where you need to be, not through pressure or panic, but through calm alignment with the path crafted for your life. A quiet assurance is forming within you now because the fear of missing your moment, the fear that opportunities will pass you by, that timing will betray you, or that life will move forward without including you, is losing its grip. You've spent years trying to stay alert, trying to recognize every possible sign, trying to be in the right place at the right time, worried that one wrong step or moment of hesitation might cost you something meaningful. That pressure has been heavy, making you feel as though you had to earn your destiny through constant vigilance. Yet the truth unfolding within you now is far gentler. What is meant for you is not fragile. It will not slip away because you blinked, paused, rested, or walked at a human pace. What is aligned with your purpose carries its own timing, its own rhythm, its own gravitational pull, and it will meet you exactly when your readiness synchronizes with its arrival. You've lived through seasons where you questioned whether you had already missed your chance. You saw others advancing while you felt stuck. You watched opportunities flourish around you while your own path seemed stagnant. This created an ache inside you, a sense of falling behind, even though your spirit was still learning, healing, and preparing beneath the surface. What you didn't realize was that the timing of your life has been unfolding in layers. Layer after layer of preparation, maturity, courage, and inner strength being cultivated in silence. Nothing about this process was wasted. Every delay shaped you. Every pause protected you. Every slow season refined parts of you that needed depth before expansion. Now, something different is coming. You are entering a moment where alignment begins to unfold naturally, without strain or panic. What belongs to your next chapter doesn't need to be chased. It will rise toward you just as you rise toward it. You'll find yourself in the right conversations, in the right environments, and in the right decisions at the right time, not because you forced anything, but because readiness has finally met opportunity. This convergence will feel almost effortless, not because the journey was easy, but because the timing is now correct. You won't miss it. You can't miss it. It is designed to meet you, not evade you. As this realization settles into your spirit, a new calm will begin forming within you. You'll stop fearing that life is moving without you. You'll stop believing that everything depends on your perfection. You'll move forward with a steady confidence, knowing that what is meant for you has been shaped with precision, not too early, not too late, but exactly in the moment where its arrival will elevate you rather than overwhelm you. And when it comes, you will recognize it instantly, because it will resonate with the very growth that has been happening inside you all along. There is a refinement happening within your inner world, because you are entering a season where your intuition, your spiritual instinct, your internal compass, your quiet sense of knowing, is becoming sharper than ever before. In the past, you struggled to distinguish between your fears and your truth, between your desires and your distractions, between genuine alignment and emotional impulse. Those moments left you uncertain, second-guessing yourself, or giving energy to situations that didn't deserve your presence. Yet every one of those experiences has been shaping your intuitive capacity, teaching you what your spirit sounds like, what peace feels like, and how wisdom moves within you. This is why you're beginning to sense things more clearly, more quickly, more accurately than before. What once confused you is becoming easier to discern. You're learning to notice the subtle signals in your emotions, the tightening in your chest when something isn't right, the steadiness that settles over you when something aligns, the tension that rises when a situation is draining your energy rather than nourishing it. You're beginning to recognize patterns you once overlooked, seeing truths that were once hidden behind hope or habit. This growth didn't happen through perfection. It developed through trial, error, reflection, and resilience. It grew each time you ignored your inner voice and faced the consequences. It strengthened each time you honored your intuition and felt the relief that followed. Now, as your intuition becomes more refined, you'll begin to navigate life with clarity that reduces stress and eliminates unnecessary conflict. You won't linger as long in situations that disturb your peace. You won't chase connections that drain you. You won't force yourself into environments that feel misaligned. Instead, you'll move forward with a grounded wisdom, sensing early when something is meant for you and when it's better to walk away. This doesn't mean life will become perfect, but it does mean confusion will lose its power over you. This strengthening intuition will guide your decisions. It will help you recognize healthy relationships and avoid unhealthy ones. It will reveal opportunities that connect with your purpose and filter out distractions that would waste your time. It will help you identify the difference between temporary emotional intensity and genuine long-term alignment. Every step you take with this heightened awareness will feel more intentional, more empowered, more aligned with your identity. As your intuition strengthens, trust it. Allow it to speak. Let it guide you gently but firmly. This inner clarity is not random. It is one of the greatest tools being shaped within you for the season ahead. There is a transformation unfolding within you that is reshaping the very way you see yourself, because the identity you once carried, the self-doubt, the insecurity, the uncertainty about your worth, is being replaced with a confidence that rises from deep, internal truth rather than external validation. You've spent years trying to figure out who you are, testing your limits, questioning your value, comparing your progress to others, and struggling to feel settled in your own skin. These struggles weren't signs of immaturity. They were part of the process of discovering your authentic self. Every season of confusion cracked open more clarity. Every emotional setback revealed another layer of your strength. Every moment of self-doubt pushed you toward understanding what truly defines you. You're beginning to feel the early signs of this transformation already. The things that once intimidated you now feel manageable. The relationships that used to drain your confidence now reveal themselves clearly. You no longer chase approval from people who don't value your depth. You no longer shape yourself to fit into spaces that don't honor your identity. Instead, you're starting to move with a quiet assurance, one that doesn't need to boast or prove anything, because it is rooted in truth rather than image. You are becoming aware of your own voice, your own presence, your own capacity. This awareness is giving you strength that cannot be easily shaken. As this confidence rises, it won't look like arrogance or performance. It will look like peace. You'll speak with clarity, not to dominate but to express truth. You'll set boundaries not to push people away but to protect your well-being. You'll pursue opportunities not out of desperation but out of alignment. You'll carry yourself with the understanding that your life has purpose, your journey has meaning, and your presence holds value. People around you will notice the shift, not because you announce it, but because confidence has a way of reshaping how you stand, how you move, how you choose. This confidence is the result of everything you've lived through, the pain that humbled you, the victories that strengthened you, the lessons that reshaped you. It's the maturity that rises after seasons of silent growth. You're becoming someone who no longer doubts their worth every time life becomes difficult. You're becoming someone who can face challenges with grounded steadiness. You're becoming someone who understands who they are becoming, and that understanding will be one of your greatest sources of strength. This confidence isn't arriving someday, it's being formed right now, moment by moment, as clarity replaces insecurity and truth replaces fear. You will walk into your next season with a confidence that feels like home, because it will come from the deepest, truest part of you. A deep and unexpected tenderness is beginning to rise within you because healing is reaching layers of your heart that you haven't touched in years. Places tucked away beneath your responsibilities, your busyness, your strength, and the persona you've had to hold together just to keep moving. These are the parts of you that learn to stay quiet, that learn to cope without acknowledging the weight they carried, that learn to function even while fractured. You've grown so accustomed to pushing through, adapting, surviving, and stabilizing yourself that some parts of your inner world became invisible even to you. But just because you adapted to certain wounds doesn't mean those wounds ever fully healed. And now, in this season of your life, those hidden places are being brought into gentle focus, not to overwhelm you, but to restore the pieces of you that have been silently asking for attention. This healing isn't coming through dramatic breakdowns or emotional eruptions. It's unfolding through subtle awareness, moments where you feel something shift unexpectedly, insights that rise without force, or sudden clarity that reveals how long you've been carrying old hurt. You may notice memories resurfacing, not to shame you, but to show you what's ready to be released. You may feel emotions emerging that you haven't felt in years. Not because you're regressing, but because you're finally safe enough to process what you once had to suppress. Healing like this happens when you're mature enough, grounded enough, and strong enough to face what once frightened you. There are parts of you that were shaped by past disappointments, places where you learned to expect less so you wouldn't get hurt again. There are parts shaped by betrayal, where trust became fragile and closeness felt risky. There are parts shaped by childhood wounds, where certain beliefs about yourself took root long before you had the ability to question them. And there are parts shaped by loneliness, moments where you convinced yourself that needing help was weakness. Healing is reaching all of these spaces now, not through force but through a quiet unraveling of what no longer belongs. You are not breaking apart. You are becoming whole. You're discovering that the strength you once used to numb your heart is evolving into a strength that allows you to feel again without fear. You're learning that the walls you built for survival can be softened without losing your sense of protection. You're realizing that healing doesn't erase the past. It transforms your relationship with it. As this process unfolds, you'll feel lighter, clearer, and more connected to the person you were always meant to become. What's happening inside you now is profound. It's the restoration of pieces you forgot existed, the mending of parts you thought were permanently damaged, the awakening of a heart ready to feel fully without breaking. This healing is not a step backward. It's the step that finally carries you forward. There is a shedding happening inside you, subtle yet powerful, because the patterns that once shaped your behavior, patterns born from fear, survival, familiarity, or old wounds, are losing their hold as you evolve into a stronger, clearer, more grounded version of yourself. You've lived through seasons where certain reactions felt automatic, withdrawing when things felt overwhelming, overthinking every detail to avoid mistakes, shrinking to keep the peace, choosing what was familiar over what was healthy, or accepting less than you deserved because you didn't want to cause conflict. Those patterns didn't make you weak. They made you human, shaped by the experiences that once overwhelmed you. But now, those old instincts no longer align with your identity, and that misalignment is becoming impossible to ignore. You may feel this shift in the form of discomfort, where behaviors that once felt normal now feel too restricting, too heavy, or too out of sync with your spirit. You may find yourself questioning old habits, noticing emotional triggers with new clarity, or feeling resistant to situations that once pulled you in easily. That discomfort isn't failure, it's a sign of growth. You're outgrowing coping mechanisms that once protected you. You're releasing emotional reflexes that once shielded you. You're stepping out of mental loops that once kept you confined. Growth often feels like friction because your spirit is distancing itself from what no longer serves your future. These old patterns are falling away not through willpower alone, but through transformation, through the deep inner work you've been doing, the healing that's been unfolding, and the clarity that's developing within you. You're learning to respond instead of react, to observe instead of absorb, to choose instead of drift. You're becoming aware of your inner boundaries, your emotional needs, your personal values, and your spiritual calling. This awareness naturally dismantles patterns that contradict your growth. You don't need to fight your old habits. You simply need to keep expanding into the person you are becoming, and what once held you will lose its grip naturally. As these old patterns fade, new ways of living will take their place, ways rooted in confidence, truth, and emotional clarity. You'll speak with more honesty. You'll choose relationships that honor your worth. You'll prioritize peace over performance. You'll step into opportunities without second-guessing your value. And most importantly, you'll begin to feel aligned with yourself, no longer pulled between who you were and who you're meant to be. This release isn't an ending, it's a beginning. a doorway, a clearing of space within your spirit so that your next season can unfold without the weight of yesterday's limitations. There is a rising taking place in your life, one that your spirit has sensed even before your mind could understand it, because you are being prepared to step into a level of opportunity, visibility, responsibility, or blessing that once felt too big, too overwhelming, or too far out of reach. For years, you've wrestled with an internal tension, the desire for something greater paired with the fear that you weren't ready or deserving. The tension shaped how you viewed yourself, how you approached opportunities, and how you responded to moments of growth. You accepted less because you believed you weren't qualified for more. You hid parts of your brilliance because you feared being judged or misunderstood. You declined doors that opened because something inside you whispered, "Not yet, not me, not someone like me." But the person you are becoming no longer fits the limitations you once lived under. Elevation requires identity. It requires knowing your worth, recognizing your strengths, understanding your calling, and embracing the fullness of who you are. Over time, through healing, resilience, and spiritual growth, your identity has been expanding. You're seeing yourself more clearly. You're recognizing gifts you once overlooked. You're acknowledging desires you once dismissed. You're no longer willing to shrink to make others comfortable. This inner transformation is what qualifies you for the elevation ahead, not perfection, not performance, but authenticity. The elevation coming will not be forced. It will be a natural step, an unfolding, a moment of alignment where your preparation finally meets your opportunity. It may appear as a promotion, a relationship, a calling, a platform, a breakthrough, or a level of influence that once felt impossible. Whatever form it takes, it will carry a weight that matches your maturity, not a burden, but a responsibility you are ready to carry with grace and strength. You will feel the shift before it happens. You will sense doors opening before they become visible. You will feel an internal expansion, a readiness, a quiet confidence rising within you. This elevation won't intimidate you the way it once would have, because you're no longer the person who doubts their worth. You're someone who has grown through fire, learned through experience, matured through hardship, and awakened through healing. You are being lifted, not because you chase status or validation, but because you align with your truth. The place you once felt unworthy of will become the place you were always meant to inhabit. A new atmosphere is forming around your life, one that carries a quiet but unmistakable favor, an unseen current that shifts circumstances, softens hearts, aligns opportunities, and creates openings in places that once felt impenetrable. You've spent years pushing, striving, knocking, and hoping certain doors would open, only to feel resistance that left you confused about your direction. You questioned whether you weren't good enough, whether you lacked the qualifications, or whether something in you was holding everything back. But now you're entering a season where you will see that the barriers weren't reflections of your worth. They were simply doors that weren't meant for you yet. The favor rising around you isn't based on performance, perfection, or pressure. It flows from alignment, timing, and the quiet spiritual authority that has been forming in your life through every season of endurance. This favor will reveal itself in ways that feel almost surreal, moments where what once seemed difficult becomes surprisingly simple, where the right people appear at the right time, where solutions arrive with ease, and where opportunities that once felt distant begin moving toward you without your pursuit. Favor isn't about luck or coincidence. It's a shift in the atmosphere of your life that brings you into alignment with paths designed specifically for your growth and calling. You'll begin to notice conversations that unfold naturally into possibilities you never expected. You'll find that certain individuals see value in you that others overlooked. You'll be invited into spaces where your authenticity becomes your greatest asset, and where your presence opens doors that credentials alone could not. This season of favor doesn't require you to force anything. In fact, the more you lean into peace rather than pressure, the more clearly you'll see how these openings are shaped. You'll move in ways that feel lighter, wiser, and more confident, not because everything is easy, but because you are no longer operating from a place of striving. You are finally aligned with a rhythm that matches your identity rather than contradicting it. This is why favor works in your life now, because you are ready to hold what once would have overwhelmed you, and because your character has developed enough to steward what is coming. As these doors open, you'll realize something important. It was never about proving yourself. It was about preparing yourself. The opportunities that come now won't require you to change who you are to fit in. They will expand who you are, revealing abilities, insights, and strengths that have been waiting beneath the surface. You won't need to manipulate outcomes or chase validation. You'll walk into rooms where you belong, supported by a favor that makes the impossible suddenly attainable. This is the beginning of a season where doors open not through pressure, but through purpose. There is a shift happening around your relationships, your connections, and the circles you interact with, because your gifts, those deep, often quiet abilities within you, are moving into spaces where they will be seen, appreciated, and utilized in ways they never were before. You spent years in environments where your depth was misunderstood, your insight overlooked, your kindness taken for granted, or your abilities treated as optional rather than essential. You wondered whether you were asking for too much when you longed to be valued. You questioned whether your uniqueness was a burden rather than a strength. And you often felt unseen in places where you gave more than anyone realized. But the environments you've outgrown are releasing you, and new environments, ones aligned with your growth, identity, and purpose, are beginning to draw you in. In these next surroundings, you will feel a shift almost immediately. You'll notice that people speak differently to you, listen differently, respond differently. You'll feel the ease of being understood without needing to explain yourself repeatedly. Your contributions won't be dismissed or minimized. They will be welcomed, sought out, and appreciated. People will recognize your potential without you having to perform excessively for their approval. They will see the layers of who you are and acknowledge the value you bring simply by being present. This is not because you've become someone different overnight. It's because the environments you're stepping into are equipped to honor the depth you've carried for years. These spaces will support your growth instead of stifling it. They will challenge you in healthy ways, stretch you in meaningful ways, and affirm you in ways that build confidence rather than insecurity. You'll find yourself invited into roles that ignite creativity instead of draining your spirit. You'll form connections that feel reciprocal rather than one-sided. You'll be surrounded by individuals who inspire you, encourage your evolution, and recognize the beauty of your authenticity. These environments are not random. They've been prepared gradually, piece by piece, as you became ready to inhabit them. As you move into these new spaces, release the belief that you must earn your worth. You are not entering these places to prove anything. You are entering them because they align with who you have become. The recognition you will experience is simply the reflection of your growth, being mirrored back to you. Let yourself be fully present. Let yourself be seen. Let yourself experience the ease of belonging in places designed for your purpose. You are entering environments that will not only recognize your gifts, they will magnify them. A rapid alignment is approaching your life, one that will feel both unexpected and divinely timed, because pieces that once felt scattered, delayed, or disconnected are beginning to snap into place with clarity that will leave you humbled and amazed. You've lived through periods of waiting where progress moved slowly, where your efforts didn't match your results, and where your vision felt clouded by uncertainty. You wondered whether life would always feel like a series of half-open doors and almost answered prayers. But now, momentum is gathering behind the scenes. The shifts that once seemed impossible are becoming possible. The clarity that once felt distant is drawing near. You are stepping into a moment where alignment accelerates your path, not through chaos, but through divine order. These sudden shifts may appear as unexpected opportunities, quick resolutions to long-standing problems, or surprising changes in direction that bring you closer to your purpose than years of effort ever did. You might see relationships fall away swiftly, not as loss but as clearing. You might encounter opportunities that open without warning. You might experience breakthroughs that feel like they arrived out of nowhere. But none of it is random. These shifts have been building slowly, like water rising behind a dam, gathering pressure until the moment of release arrives. That moment is now approaching. You will feel these shifts internally before they manifest externally. You'll sense restlessness in areas where you settled for too little. You'll feel rising clarity in areas where confusion once held power. You'll experience an inner lift, a sense that something is moving, something is changing, something is aligning. Trust that sensation. It is the signal that your next steps are being prepared. These shifts will not overwhelm you. They will elevate you. They will move you closer to the future you've longed for, even if it doesn't unfold exactly as you imagine. What once hindered you will loosen its grip. What once confused you will become clear. What once blocked your progress will suddenly make way for movement. You will not need to force these changes. They will flow toward you as naturally as breath returning to your lungs. When the alignment unfolds, you will understand why the waiting was necessary, why certain doors stayed closed, and why certain paths didn't move sooner. These sudden shifts are not interruptions. They are orchestrations, crafted to lead you into the path that has been waiting for you all along. A profound clarity is beginning to settle over you, because the fog that once clouded your decisions, your emotions, and your sense of direction is finally lifting. You spent seasons feeling as though you were walking through life with blurred vision, unable to fully understand what you wanted, unsure of which direction to choose, overwhelmed by conflicting desires, and exhausted by the weight of uncertainty. There were days when even simple choices felt heavy. You questioned your intuition. You doubted your discernment. You wondered why everything felt so unclear when all you wanted was a peaceful, straightforward path. But what you didn't realize was that confusion wasn't evidence of failure. It was the indicator that transformation was happening beneath the surface, preparing you for clearer guidance and stronger decisions. You were changing at a pace your mind hadn't yet caught up with, and that dissonance created the internal fog you've been battling. And now, the inner shifts that once felt disorienting are beginning to integrate into your awareness. You're noticing the early signs already, a new calm in situations that once triggered fear, a new steadiness where you used to feel pressure, a new ability to observe your emotions without being consumed by them. This clarity is not accidental. It's the result of everything you've been healing, confronting, and releasing. Old patterns of thought that once tangled your mind are losing their influence. Emotional wounds that once blinded your judgment are finally softening. Expectations that were never yours to carry are dissolving. Bit by bit, space is being created inside you for truth to rise. As the confusion lifts, you'll begin to see your path with a depth you've never experienced before. You'll notice which relationships nourish you and which ones only drain your energy. You'll recognize which responsibilities align with your calling and which ones keep you stagnant. You'll feel the difference between opportunities that fit your purpose and those that only appeal to your insecurities. And most importantly, you'll begin to trust your own perception again. You'll no longer second-guess yourself endlessly. You'll no longer freeze in fear of choosing wrong. You'll move with confidence, not because life is suddenly perfect, but because your perspective has become stronger, clearer, and more grounded. This clarity will not come all at once. It will deepen day by day, moment by moment, as you continue to choose truth over fear, presence over panic, and growth over stagnation. It will guide you with gentleness, showing you where peace exists and where it doesn't. You'll know you're aligned because your spirit will settle rather than tighten. You'll know you're moving in the right direction because your mind will quiet instead of spiral. This is the season where your vision returns, not the vision shaped by past pain or external pressure, but the vision shaped by who you truly are and who you are becoming. There is a depth rising within you now, a strength that doesn't shout or rush or strain, but anchors you quietly, steadily, and unmistakably. This strength isn't the kind you had to force through sheer will or survival. It isn't the gritted teeth endurance you relied on in past seasons just to hold yourself together. This is a deeper strength, one formed through inner healing, emotional honesty, reflection, and the quiet rebuilding of your identity. You've walked through moments where you felt fragile, moments where even small things overwhelmed you, moments where your confidence seemed to crumble without warning. And yet, through all of that, you never stopped growing. You never stopped learning. You never stopped choosing to move forward, even if those steps were slow and shaky. That long, intentional journey is now emerging as a new form of strength, one that will not collapse under pressure the way old coping mechanisms once did. This new strength shows itself in subtle ways. First, you'll notice you're no longer as easily thrown off by other people's moods or opinions. You'll feel less reactive to situations that used to trigger anxiety. You'll sense a deeper calm settling into your body even when life feels chaotic. You'll find yourself speaking with more certainty, not to impress anyone, but because your words now come from clarity instead of insecurity. This strength is the natural result of your inner world becoming more aligned, more healed, and more confident. It's the maturity that forms when you stop running from yourself and start embracing every part of who you are, your history, your wounds, your lessons, your victories, your desires. And as this strength grows, it will become a stabilizing force in your relationships, your decisions, and your daily rhythm. When challenges arise, as they inevitably do, you won't crumble in the ways you once feared. You'll respond differently. You'll think more clearly. You'll recover more quickly. You'll make choices that reflect your growth rather than your past pain. You'll step into new opportunities without the heavy fear of failure. You'll face uncertainty with curiosity rather than panic. This strength will not make you emotionless. It will make you resilient. It will allow you to feel deeply without losing yourself. It will empower you to set boundaries without guilt. It will guide you to trust your intuition even when others don't understand your decisions. This is not just personal strength, it is a spiritual steadiness that fortifies your entire identity. It's the stability you prayed for when you didn't even know how to articulate your need. It's the strength your future requires. And it's being placed within you now, not as a temporary boost, but as a permanent foundation for every season ahead. There is a profound internal alignment happening within you because your heart, your desires, your values, your emotional truth is finally syncing with your purpose in a way it never has before. For so long, your life felt divided. Your heart wanted one thing while your responsibilities demanded another. Your dreams pulled you forward while fear pulled you back. Your intuition whispered truth while your mind spiraled with doubt. You live in tension between who you were and who you felt you were meant to become. That dissonance made your steps feel forced, like you were constantly pushing against a weight you couldn't name. But that season of inner conflict is ending. Your heart is beginning to align with the direction your spirit has been calling you toward. This alignment doesn't come through pressure or perfection, it comes through honesty. You've been exploring what truly matters to you. You've been questioning old beliefs. You've been releasing expectations that didn't belong to you. You've been listening more closely to the quiet desires buried beneath the noise of your past. All of this has created space within you, space where clarity can grow, space where truth can settle, space where your purpose can rise without competing against internal resistance. And now, as these pieces align, you're beginning to sense a new ease forming in your decisions. You will notice this alignment in small but powerful ways. You'll feel drawn to opportunities that nourish your spirit rather than drain it. You'll sense a pull toward environments and relationships that support your growth. You'll find yourself saying yes to what aligns and no to what disrupts your peace, with less guilt, less hesitation, and less fear. Your steps will stop feeling like forced obligations and will begin to feel like natural expressions of who you are. Purpose will no longer be something you chase. It will be something you embody. This alignment will reshape how you move through life. You'll feel more centered, more grounded, more present. Your days will carry more meaning, not because everything is perfect, but because your inner world is no longer at war with itself. You'll discover that walking in purpose doesn't require constant motivation or pressure. It requires authenticity. And authenticity is something you now know how to embrace. Your path ahead will be marked by this ease. Not the ease of a life without difficulty, but the ease of a life lived in alignment with your truth. Every step will carry a sense of rightness. Every decision will feel more intuitive. Every season will bring greater clarity. This is what it feels like when your heart and purpose finally walk together. There is a gentle but deliberate separation happening in your life. And although it may feel unsettling at times, it is one of the clearest signs that you are stepping into a season that not everyone around you is meant to enter. You've noticed the shifts already. Relationships that once felt effortless now feel heavy. Conversations that once flowed easily now feel strained. And connections that once energized you now leave you drained. These changes are not failures. They are indicators of your growth. Your spirit is evolving. Your values are deepening. Your boundaries are strengthening. And because of that, certain people who walked with you in past seasons can no longer match the pace or depth of who you are becoming. You may feel guilt for outgrowing certain connections, or confusion about why familiarity no longer feels safe. But this distancing is not rejection. It is redirection, designed to protect your peace and prepare your path. Some individuals were meant to walk with you only for a certain stretch of your journey. They served as mirrors, lessons, companions, or catalysts during the moments when you needed them. Yet now, you are moving into a space that requires clarity, stability, maturity, and spiritual alignment. Those who cannot honor your growth will naturally fall away, not because they are bad people, but because they are not equipped to support the version of you that is emerging. This doesn't invalidate the role they once played, nor does it diminish your love or gratitude for them. It simply acknowledges that every elevation requires a shift in atmosphere, and certain relationships naturally dissolve when they no longer support your next steps. You will feel an internal peace, even in the sadness of letting go. That peace is the sign that these separations are guided rather than random. It will reassure you that you are not losing people, you are losing limitations. You are not being abandoned. You are being aligned. And as these spaces open in your life, new connections will begin to arrive. People who understand your depth, who respect your boundaries, who value your heart, who celebrate your growth, and who walk with you in truth rather than convenience will begin to enter your orbit. These new connections will feel like fresh air. They will match your pace, reinforce your purpose, and honor the evolution you've worked so hard to achieve. As this transition continues, do not cling to what is fading. Allow the space between you and certain people to widen without fear. You are not walking away from them. You are walking toward the future that has been waiting for you. And those meant to accompany you into that future will meet you there, ready for the depth, honesty, and strength that defines this next chapter of your life. A tender transformation is unfolding in the quiet corners of your heart, because the walls you once built for protection have become too heavy to carry into the life you're stepping into. You learn to guard yourself the hard way, through heartbreak, disappointment, betrayal, or emotional exhaustion. These experiences taught you how to survive by creating distance, minimizing vulnerability, and shrinking your expectations of love. You taught yourself not to hope too deeply, not to believe too easily, not to trust too openly. But beneath all that self-protection, your heart still longs for connection, intimacy, understanding, and sincere affection. That longing is not weakness. It is proof that love still lives within you. And now, in this season, your heart is being gently softened so that you can love again, but this time from a place of wisdom instead of fear. This softening does not mean returning to naivety or ignoring the lessons you've learned. It means allowing warmth to return without erasing boundaries. It means opening your heart without abandoning self-respect. It means embracing vulnerability without sacrificing discernment. You are learning how to let love in without losing your voice, your identity, or your emotional clarity. This is the kind of heart expansion that comes only after healing has done its quiet work, when the pain of the past no longer controls your present decisions, and when you finally understand that protecting yourself does not require shutting yourself off from every possibility of joy. You may feel the shift in subtle ways. You might notice yourself forgiving without bitterness. You might sense curiosity replacing fear. You might find comfort in emotional closeness rather than anxiety. You may allow someone's kindness to touch you without questioning their hidden motive. You might find yourself dreaming again, not with desperation, but with a gentle openness. This softening is not an invitation to recklessness. It is an invitation to authenticity. It allows love to find you in a balanced, grounded, emotionally mature form. And as your heart softens, you'll also recognize the importance of loving yourself with greater tenderness. You will speak more kindly to yourself. You will honor your emotional needs more quickly. You will nurture your inner world with patience instead of pressure. This internal shift will redefine the kind of love you attract, because people who resonate with your healed heart will be drawn to your energy naturally. Healthy love will no longer feel foreign. It will feel possible. And when it comes, you will recognize it, not because it will overwhelm you, but because it will align with your growth, your truth, and your spiritual wholeness. You are not becoming fragile. You are becoming whole. And with that wholeness will come a love you can give and receive without losing yourself in the process. Deep within you, something is stirring again. A spark you thought had died out, a passion you assumed life had worn down, a sense of purpose you believed had faded beyond resurrection. For a long time, you moved through life carrying an invisible heaviness, feeling disconnected from the dreams that once energized you. You convinced yourself that maturity meant settling, that responsibility required extinguishing your fire, that disappointment was a sign you should shrink your desires. Slowly, almost without noticing, the vibrant part of you, the bold part, the creative part, the visionary part, began to dim. Not because you were weak, but because you were exhausted. You gave so much of yourself to survival that you forgot what it felt like to be alive. But now, the embers within you are beginning to glow again. A new fire is rising, one shaped not by youthful ambition or reactive emotion, but by depth, healing, and clarity. You might notice a sudden desire to dream again, to imagine possibilities beyond your current reality, to create, to build, to pursue what stirs your spirit. You might feel inspiration returning in unexpected moments, during quiet mornings, during still nights, or in conversations that awaken something you didn't realize you missed. This fire is not random. It is the return of your passion, your calling, your vitality, your sense of inner aliveness. This restoration does not demand that you hustle endlessly or return to old patterns of burnout. Instead, it empowers you to move with purpose, to act with intention, to embrace your gifts without apology. The fire rising inside you will give you courage to start what you once abandoned, to try what you once feared, and to believe in possibilities you once dismissed. It will guide you toward opportunities that align with your spirit rather than drain it. It will anchor you in truth, reminding you that the spark within you was never destroyed. It was simply waiting for the right season to be reignited. As this fire grows, it will influence every area of your life. Your creativity will feel freer. Your decisions will feel bolder. Your voice will become clearer. Your presence will carry a strength that others can feel. You will no longer move through life as someone simply existing. You will move as someone living, fully, intentionally, passionately. This is your rekindling, your inner revival, the moment your spirit returns to life in a form more powerful and wiser than before. What you thought life extinguished was never lost. It was waiting for the moment when you were ready, not just to burn again, but to burn with purpose. There is a shift happening within the deepest layers of your mind, because the thoughts that once controlled you, the silent fears, the old narratives, the inherited beliefs, the internal limitations, are losing their grip as a new clarity begins to take root. You've carried mental patterns shaped by years of survival, disappointment, comparison, self-doubt, and pressure. These patterns taught you to anticipate the worst, to undervalue yourself, to question your worth, and to assume that peace was temporary. Your mind became a battlefield long before the rest of your life reflected it. But what's happening now is a complete renewal, an inner restructuring where truth replaces fear, clarity replaces confusion, and grounded confidence replaces the old internal noise. This renewal didn't begin with a moment. It began with every small step you took toward healing, even when you didn't realize healing was happening. You may notice your thoughts behaving differently than before, where panic once rose quickly. Now calmness enters sooner. Where self-criticism once spoke loudly, now self-awareness answers with gentleness. Where overthinking once tangled your decisions, now understanding comes quietly but firmly. This is not denial or wishful thinking. It is the emergence of a mind finally learning how to distinguish between fear and truth. Fear imagines outcomes that do not exist. Truth illuminates what is real. Fear exaggerates the shadows. Truth reveals what stands behind them. As your mind shifts into clarity, you'll feel more anchored in reality instead of sinking into imagined threats. This renewal also means you'll start recognizing thoughts that were never yours to begin with. Beliefs shaped by the expectations of others, by past mistakes, by emotional wounds that once felt permanent. You'll begin to see that not every thought deserves your attention, that not every worry is a warning, and that not every assumption is accurate. Your mind is learning to filter what once overwhelmed you. This new clarity won't eliminate challenge, but it will give you the mental strength to face challenge without losing yourself to spiraling thoughts. As your mind renews, your decisions will become more confident. Your standards will rise naturally. Your emotional stability will deepen. Your sense of self will become clearer. The world will no longer feel like something you have to brace against every moment of the day. Instead, you will feel grounded, aware, alert, steady. It won't be perfection. It will be transformation. And that transformation will guide you into a life where your thoughts strengthen you rather than sabotage you. What is happening inside you is not temporary. It is the beginning of a mental freedom you've been longing for without knowing how to name it. Your mind is learning to think from truth, not fear, and that shift will shape every part of your future. Something powerful is unfolding within you, because the blessings approaching your life require emotional, spiritual, and mental capacity that you did not have in earlier seasons. But you are being prepared now. You've prayed for growth, for opportunities, for breakthroughs, for relationships that align with your purpose, and for a life that reflects the truth within you. Yet what you may not have realized is that great blessings require great capacity to handle responsibility without resentment, capacity to receive abundance without fear, capacity to stand in new territory without shrinking, capacity to experience love without sabotaging it, and capacity to walk in purpose without abandoning your own well-being. This expansion is not happening outside you first. It is happening inside, stretching your endurance, deepening your perspective, and strengthening the foundation of your identity. You've already felt the stretching. It showed up during moments when you were pushed past what you thought you could manage. It appeared in situations where you had to grow quickly, adapt, let go, or rise in ways you didn't expect. It surfaced during seasons where life felt overwhelming, and you questioned why the challenges seemed to increase rather than decrease. But what seemed like pressure was actually preparation, an expansion of your inner capacity so that when blessings arrive, they do not overwhelm you but elevate you. This expansion is evident in your emotional maturity. Situations that once destabilized you now simply pause you. Conflicts that once frightened you now feel manageable. Responsibilities that once strained you now feel purposeful. You're becoming someone who can handle more without losing yourself. Your boundaries are clearer. Your patience is stronger. Your compassion is deeper. You're learning how to rest without quitting, how to persevere without burning out, and how to stay grounded even when your circumstances shift rapidly. As your capacity expands, you'll notice that what once felt too big no longer intimidates you. Dreams that once felt unrealistic now feel attainable. Opportunities that once felt overwhelming now feel aligned. Relationships that once felt too vulnerable now feel possible. You are being molded into someone who can hold the weight of the good things coming without collapsing under the pressure. This expansion is not punishment, it is preparation. Blessings are heavy when you're unprepared, but they feel natural when you've grown into the person capable of carrying them. And that is exactly what's happening now. You're becoming strong enough, wise enough, healed enough, and steady enough to hold everything that is on its way to you. A rising boldness is awakening within you, because the dreams you've held quietly in your heart, those visions you rarely speak of, those desires you've tucked away for fear of judgment, failure, or unworthiness, are no longer meant to remain hidden. You've carried ideas, passions, and longings that have followed you from one season to the next, whispering to you in quiet moments, resurfacing whenever you tried to settle for less, urging you toward something bigger even when life pushed you into small spaces. You convinced yourself that now wasn't the right time, that you weren't ready, that you needed more resources, more experience, more confidence. But beneath all those reasons was the simple truth. You were afraid. Afraid to fail. Afraid to be seen. Afraid to try and fall short. Afraid that the things you desired most were the things you least deserved. But this season marks a shift. A quiet courage is taking root inside you, one powerful enough to override the fears that once held you back. This courage isn't loud or reckless. It's steady, grounded, and unmistakably real. It rises every time you imagine a future that feels more aligned with your truth. It grows every time you refuse to shrink back into old limitations. It strengthens every time you take even the smallest step in the direction of your calling. This courage is not arriving from outside you. It is emerging from years of growth, healing, clarity, and inner strengthening. It is the courage of someone who has survived enough to stop living small. You will begin to feel this courage in your decisions. You will sense a pull toward action rather than hesitation. You'll notice yourself saying yes to opportunities you once would have declined out of fear. You'll feel a fire pushing you to move, create, build, speak, pursue, or commit in ways you once resisted. This does not mean the fear will disappear entirely. It means the fear will no longer be the one steering your choices. Courage will step forward instead, reminding you that you are capable, prepared, and worthy of pursuing what has lived inside you for so long. Your dreams are not random. They are not fantasies. They are seeds of purpose placed within you, waiting for the moment when courage and clarity intersect. That moment is now beginning. And as you act on these dreams, even imperfectly, even slowly, you will discover that they respond quickly to your movement. Opportunities will open. Support will appear. Creativity will flow. Alignment will increase. Every step you take will feel like stepping more fully into your identity. You are not being pushed, you are being called. And the courage rising within you is the confirmation that it is finally time to act on what your heart has carried in silence for far too long. Something profound is unfolding in your inner world, because wisdom is rising in you in a way that feels different from anything you've experienced before. This isn't the kind of wisdom that comes from books or advice or repeating what you've heard from others. This is the kind of wisdom that grows out of your own journey, out of your healing, your heartbreaks, your disappointments, your resilience, your introspection, and the countless moments where you had to make decisions in silence with nothing but your inner compass guiding you forward. This wisdom is being awakened now because the next stage of your life requires a steadier, quieter, more grounded version of you. Someone who doesn't merely react to life but responds with discernment, patience, insight, and emotional balance. You may have noticed subtle changes already. You pause before speaking. You see beyond the surface of situations that once confused you. You sense motives you previously overlooked. You hold your peace instead of rushing to defend yourself. You evaluate choices from a long-term perspective rather than through temporary emotions. These shifts are signs that wisdom is becoming a natural language in your inner world, something you lean into without force. This awakening is not about becoming perfect or emotionless. It's about becoming aligned with the truth inside you rather than being pulled by outside noise. Wisdom gives you the ability to decide what deserves your energy and what doesn't, what is worth pursuing and what should be released, what aligns with your future and what belongs to your past. This deeper wisdom will transform how you navigate relationships. You'll no longer invest in people who drain your spirit, because you'll recognize early when a connection is misaligned. You'll know how to communicate with clarity, set boundaries without guilt, and protect your peace without shutting down your heart. You'll choose the company that elevates your spirit rather than those who keep you stuck. And in moments where you once allowed your emotions to lead, you'll find that insight and intuition work together to give you the clarity needed to move forward with confidence. This wisdom will also reshape your decisions. You'll stop making choices from fear and start making them from understanding. You'll allow silence to give you answers instead of rushing into solutions. You'll trust your inner knowing more than the opinions of those who have never walked in your shoes. And when life presents you with crossroads, you'll feel the quiet assurance of knowing which path contributes to your growth rather than your regression. This awakening is not something temporary. It is becoming a permanent part of who you are. It will guide you not through pressure, but through calm, steady inner truth. And as you continue to embrace this wisdom, you'll find that every part of your life becomes clearer, not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you finally have the insight to navigate it with clarity and peace. There is a deeper strength forming at the core of your being, because you are stepping into a season where resilience is not just something you possess. It is something you embody. You've endured experiences that once shook your confidence, destabilized your emotions, and caused you to question your direction. Moments where you felt blindsided, overwhelmed, betrayed, misunderstood, or pushed beyond what you thought you could handle. You survived storms that others never saw. You carried burdens silently because you didn't want to burden anyone else. You rebuilt yourself after disappointments you never expected. And through all of it, you learned to stand back up, not because it was easy, but because something within you refused to surrender your purpose. This resilience is being strengthened now, not the kind that forces you to harden your heart or bury your pain, but the kind that roots you deeply, stabilizes your spirit, and fortifies your identity. You'll feel this strengthening in the way you handle conflicts with grace instead of fear. You'll feel it in the way you no longer collapse emotionally when something goes wrong. You'll feel it when you face setbacks without internalizing them as failures. Resilience is not about forcing yourself to be strong. It's about recognizing that you already are. And now, that strength is becoming anchored, grounded, and mature. There will still be challenges, but you will meet them differently. Where you once reacted impulsively, you will now respond with strategy. Where you once spiraled into self-doubt, you will now stabilize yourself with truth. Where you once allowed others to dictate your worth, you will now hold steady in the knowledge of who you are. This resilience will make you unshakable, not because circumstances stop trying to pull at you, but because you finally know how to remain rooted even when life is unpredictable. This deeper resilience will also protect your purpose. When distractions arise, you won't be easily swayed. When negativity tries to reach you, it will not penetrate as it once did. When old fears resurface, they will not regain authority over your choices. You'll move forward with determination, knowing that temporary setbacks cannot derail a destiny that has been shaped through endurance. Your spirit will feel more stable, your emotions more manageable, and your decisions more grounded. You are stepping into strength that comes from understanding your own value, your own capacity, and your own direction. And with this resilience, nothing formed against your purpose, no disappointment, no loss, no criticism, no internal fear, will uproot the growth you've worked so hard to cultivate. This is the kind of strength that carries you into your next chapter with quiet confidence and unshakable resolve. There is a strategic repositioning happening in your life, because the opportunities approaching you are meant for the healed version of you. Not the one who survived through fear, not the one who doubted their worth, not the one who made decisions from insecurity or pain. You spent years healing, learning, releasing, confronting, and transforming. You shed old versions of yourself layer by layer. And now, the openings coming your way are shaped for the person you've become, not the person you were forced to be during seasons of survival. This repositioning is intentional. It is moving you away from places that limited you, from environments that drained you, and from patterns that kept you small. It is guiding you toward spaces where your growth is recognized, your strengths are valued, and your identity is honored. You'll begin to notice doors closing that once felt familiar, not as punishment, but as protection. You'll feel an internal pull away from opportunities that no longer fit who you are. You may even experience sudden redirections that confuse you at first, but later reveal themselves as purposeful course corrections. Every shift is aligning you with paths that reflect your healed heart, your matured mind, and your clarified purpose. You cannot be placed in the environments meant for your future until you fully release the environments attached to your past. The new opportunities approaching you will feel different. They won't require you to betray yourself to belong. They won't demand that you diminish your voice to be accepted. They won't pressure you to settle for less in exchange for temporary comfort. Instead, they will call you upward, outward, forward, into versions of yourself that match the healing you fought for. These opportunities may challenge you, but they will not crush you. They may stretch you, but they will also affirm you. They will feel aligned with your spirit, not just your circumstances. This positioning will affect every area of your life. In work, you'll be drawn to roles that utilize your strengths rather than exploit your resilience. In relationships, you'll be attracted to connections that cultivate peace rather than chaos. In creativity, you'll feel inspired rather than drained. In your spiritual life, you'll feel alignment replacing confusion. Everything around you will begin to reflect the transformation inside you. You are not being positioned randomly. You are being positioned precisely. Every shift, every redirection, every closed door is moving you closer to opportunities that fit the healed version of you. The whole version of you. The grounded and awakened version of you. And once you step into these opportunities, you will understand why your past had to release you first. There's a stirring in the deepest part of you right now because you are approaching the very place your spirit has been pointing toward for years. Long before your mind understood it, long before your emotions believed it, long before your circumstances reflected it. You've carried a quiet inner knowing, a subtle certainty, a gentle pull toward something greater, even when you couldn't articulate it. At times it felt like a whisper in your chest, other times like a longing you tried to ignore, and other times like an ache you learned to carry without explanation. You assumed it was imagination, or hope, or wishful thinking, yet it never fully went away. That quiet inner knowing has been the compass of your life, gently redirecting you through disappointments, through detours, through delays, and through seasons where nothing seemed to align. And now, at this very moment in your story, the path ahead is beginning to resemble the promise your spirit has carried for years. This fulfillment will not arrive as a sudden explosion of change, but as a deep recognition, I knew it moment that awakens your entire being. You will feel it long before you see it. Your spirit will sense alignment before your eyes witness the manifestation. You'll begin to notice subtle signs that reassure you, peace returning to places where fear once ruled, opportunities emerging where doors once remained shut, clarity rising where confusion lived for too long. Each of these shifts is confirmation that you are stepping into what has always been yours, what has always been forming for you behind the scenes, what has been preserved through every detour, delay, and disappointment. This fulfillment doesn't erase your past, it redeems it. Everything you endured, the heartbreaks, the closed doors, the quiet battles, the moments of doubt, served a purpose in preparing you to receive what is coming without sabotaging it. The longing that stayed with you was not meant to torment you, it was meant to sustain you. And with the thread connecting you to your divine timing. And now, as your life begins to align with what your spirit has known, you will understand why certain things had to take time, why certain relationships had to end, why certain dreams had to be reshaped before being fulfilled. As this season unfolds, you will walk with a new kind of confidence, not loud, not prideful, but steady and grounded. You will move with the assurance that you are no longer wandering aimlessly, but stepping intentionally into a future that fits you. You will feel a deep resonance in your inner world, as if puzzle pieces you've held for years finally begin to click into place. This fulfillment will feel less like something entering your life, and more like something unlocking from within you, a truth your spirit always carried finally rising into the light. You are arriving at the threshold of what your soul has recognized from the beginning. And when you step into it, you will know with absolute certainty, this is the place you were always meant to reach. Amen.